the Brew Crew picking up a win last night against the blanket Seattle Mariners. There we go, Seattle Mariners last night or yesterday afternoon, I should say. So securing the series win, 7-4 win for the Brew Crew, as now they can focus on, move on to a big game tonight, a big series tonight against the Atlanta Braves. We've got Jacob Izarowski. We've got Chris Sale on the mound, too. So we'll preview that game, preview this series as we get things going. Looking back at yesterday's win, too. Robert Gasser, maybe on a little bit of a short leash with the skipper, Pat Murphy. Gasser only going 3 2/3 yesterday, getting pulled in the middle of an at-bat. Pat Murphy has done this before. I believe it was with Brandon Sproat he did this. But Robert Gasser was handed a 6-0 lead right away, and then it got a little close. Just issues with some commands and locations. So Gasser's final line going 3 2/3, 4 hits, 4 earned runs, 4 walks, 4 Ks. Luckily, the bullpen, who has had a fantastic series against the Mariners, locked it down after that, not giving up a single run. Chad Patrick going 2 1/3, gave up a couple of hits. But Ashby going 2 innings, gave up a couple walks, but struck out 4. Patrick also struck out 4. And then Trevor McGill locking it down for his 23rd save on the season. So bullpen, big old tip of the cap to the Brewers bullpen for locking it down this series against the Mariners. And so we'll take a look back at that. And again, look ahead to the series with the Braves. It should be a good one this afternoon with Chris Sale and Jacob Mizarowski on the mound. And then tonight, it's game 2 of the Packers preseason, taking on the Denver Broncos. So give me your players. Give me your players, or give me 5 things that you will be paying extra attention to. Paying extra attention to tonight. Who do you think is some players that maybe have to stand out, or what do you want to see personally? Put on your scouting cap again for this, okay? We usually do this. We did it last week with the preseason game. But put your scouting cap on. All right. Who are some of the players that you are going to be watching? Who are some of the players that maybe you're going to be focusing on just a little bit more? And what do you want to see outside? Let's remove health. Let's remove injuries. Everybody is going to be focused on that, right? So we don't want any injuries. We don't want anything like that. So what else are you going to be looking for? You know, it said it yesterday. I feel like this is an important game in terms of like, okay, we need to start to solidify some jobs now. We need to start to figure out who are we going to open up week 1 with against the Minnesota Vikings? Who are going to be the starting interior guards? Who's going to be the starting corner opposite of Brandon Cisse? We need to start to solidify some of those positions and roll with it. Guys have to know their roles. Guys have to know where they're at. That's what I want to start seeing. I want to see players starting to separate themselves from the pack, if you will. And probably specifically that interior offensive line. And I think this is still a big game in terms of winning some jobs for some backup roles, the offensive line overall. So lots to kind of discuss. I've got a lot that I want to break down and talk about with this Packers preseason game tonight. It's going up against the Denver Broncos. So it'll be a late one, 8 o'clock kickoff. But we got that on the docket. We got Dr. Austin Crow here for a little bit this morning. Depending on schedule, I know they've got some football stuff going on this morning, but we will have Dr. Crow here for a hot minute. Also, Brandon Berg will be joining me a little bit later on, closer to the 8 o'clock hour here this morning. We'll do some local sports roundup with a lot of teams in action last night to kick off their high school football season. I know we had golf in action too. Other prep sports were also in action. So Brandon will be joining us to break it all down for a local sports roundup. Plus, the debut of Team of the Week. We're gonna explain what the Team of the Week is, brought to you by our friends from Superior Auto Body, coming up a little bit later on. So got that on the docket. We've got a little AJM Automotive Pump the Brakes Full Throttle. We'll hit that up in the 8 o'clock hour. Also, cream of the crop. Since it is Friday, you know the drill, cream of the crop. Who are your cream of the crops? You can make your picks. You can play along. Hit me up on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line with a quick text at 715-830-1912. Again, 715-830-1912. Or you can hang out in the Section 105 chat room. All right, you can go to the Section 105 chat room and hang out over there too. So that's kind of your game plan here for us this morning. Let's pitter patter. Let's get at her, shall we? We'll get things started off. We'll talk a little Brewers to open it up, recapping yesterday's win, and then looking ahead to a big-time matchup with Chris Sale and Jacob Mizorowski this afternoon, but also a series that potentially could be a little bit of a playoff preview between the Braves and the Brewers. Cool thing, too, a reminder, the Sunday night game. So if you're kind of wondering, like, Saturday's an afternoon game and, you know, you got a Sunday night game. Remember, they're going over to Williamsport. They're playing that game at Williamsport where the Little League World Series is going on. So that's the Braves and Brewers game. So that's probably why you're like, why is there such a weird schedule timing there? Well, now you know. So, but we'll take a look back at yesterday's game, talk a little bit about Robert Gasser, and then there's another Brewers player offensively that's actually been pretty playing fairly well. That's maybe not given enough credit to. We'll tell you about that too. So, and of course, Packers, hit me up with your players you're watching or the things that you will be watching in tonight's preseason game number 2. All right, lots to get to on this Friday morning. So let's get right to it. We'll take our first break and then the leadoff coming up after these quick words. Brewers picking up a 7-4 win yesterday afternoon against the Atlanta Braves. The Brewers putting up 6 runs in the first inning of yesterday's game and going up against George Kirby, giving Robert Gasser an early lead to work with. It's like, all right, here we go, settle things down. You had Mitchell with a great game yesterday, 3 hits, including a home run, had 3 RBIs. Great catch at the end there, too. But Mariners chipped away. They started to chip away a little bit, putting up 2 in the top of the second, 2 more in the fourth. And Robert Gasser actually got pulled in the middle of an at-bat. And Pat Murphy afterwards saying he got a little hot in that situation. You can't be walking guys, and Robert Gasser was walking some guys yesterday. So maybe kind of sensed, okay, we got to stop this from maybe getting a little bit out of hand and stop the Mariners from continuing to chip away, because this Brewers bullpen all series long against the Mariners was fantastic, and they continued to do that in this game from yesterday and locking it down for the Crew to pick up that 7-4 victory. But we mentioned a little bit earlier, Chad Patrick going a little over 2 innings. Aaron Ashby going 2 innings. Trevor McGill picking up the save. And just 2 hits given up between the bullpen from yesterday's game. 2 of them coming from Chad Patrick. Ashby did issue a couple of walks, but both Patrick and Ashby striking out 4. So we mentioned Garrett Mitchell had himself a game yesterday. And Garrett Mitchell, we've been talking a little bit about. It's like, okay, struggle a little bit at the plate here, but 3 hits, including that solo shot late in the game to bump the lead up by 3. He ended up with 3 RBIs in the game. But David Hamilton also collected a couple of hits yesterday. And I was looking at this, and I'm like, man, it feels like David Hamilton's been kind of getting on base a little bit more frequently as of late. And the numbers show that. So the other nights, or his first game, I should say, against Seattle, the first game of the series, he collected 3 hits. And then yesterday, he collected a couple of hits. Looking at his numbers, his last 21 at-bats, his last 7 games, David Hamilton is hitting .333 with 6 RBIs. It's actually slugging a .524, on-base percentage of a .417. Now, I get it. That's 21 at-bats. That's 7 games. It's not a large sample size. But if you go back to his last 30 games, which would be 80 at-bats, he's actually hitting .263. And his on-base is a .344. So .263 for David Hamilton. Is it all-star level averages? Heck no. Okay? But you're talking about a guy who is a career .230 hitter. So the fact that in his last 80 at-bats, he's actually outperforming that. And right now, his season numbers: 4 home runs, .243 average, .321 on base, a .661 OPS. Above his career highs. In terms of a role player, and I know he's gotten a lot of starts, especially at the beginning of the season, and he's been still getting some spot starts here and there. But in terms of a rotational player, maybe, or a spot starter, whatever you want to describe him, role player, I think we got to be happy with the performance that David Hamilton has been providing the Brewers. 24 stolen bases this year. Speeds on the pad, a versatile infielder. Not the great, he's not at the level of defensive infielder like a Joey Ortiz or a Bryce Harang. Not a lot of infielders are like that. But from an offensive standpoint, I think we got to be satisfied with what we have seen from David Hamilton. And remember, too, this is a guy that didn't bunt a whole lot, and this year that's kind of his game so far this year, has been bunting, which has been a nice, pleasant surprise, and getting on base and using his speed at the bottom of the lineup. So I just wanted to give a quick tip of the cap and a little shout out to David Hamilton, because I think he's quietly having I wouldn't say great season, maybe by his career standards it is, but a solid season as a rotational player. Doesn't do I mean, 4 home runs. He's a career 18 home runs. He's not a power guy. He's not going to probably get you 300, but a very serviceable player this year for a backup rotational, type of player. Now, I'd still rather have Joey Ortiz at third and continue to have Cooper Pratt, starting at shortstop. So, but still, wanted to give a little shout out to Hamilton there. So, Brewers picking up that 7-4 victory. They were after Kirby right away in that first inning. Super aggressive, super aggressive, going after him and racking up that pitch count there. So, Brewers now back to 30 games above 500. And now, a very fun series coming up, starting this afternoon. Braves, Brewers, Milwaukee, and we've got Chris Sale taking on Jacob Mizorowski. Before we get to that, shout out to Brewers fans, too. For the Brewers fans who have been packing that stadium for a Thursday game at 1:10. And I know we're wrapping up summer and some schools are in session and such, but still, to see how full that stadium was for a Game 3 against the Mariners. Shout out to Brewers fans for packing that stadium on a Thursday at 1:10. The fan support, heck yeah. I'm curious to know when it's all said and done what the numbers are going to be for the Brewers in terms of fan attendance. It just they've been doing a really good job. So big time shout out to the fans for making that a home field advantage for the Crew. I mean, on a Thursday 1:10 towards the end of summer, I think they said 38,000. Heck yeah! Shout out Brewers fans, man. You've been showing up. And it makes a difference. It absolutely makes a difference. And hopefully they'll be showing up this weekend against the Braves. If you are a huge baseball fan, even if you're not a fan of the Braves or the Brewers, you have to appreciate what we are going to see from a pitching standpoint today. Chris Sale, lefty, former Cy Young Award winner, 12-8 with a 2.16 ERA this year, 160 Ks, going up against the leader for the Cy Young this year, Jacob Mizorowski, 12-5, a 1.75 ERA, 210 Ks. Can't ask for a better pitching matchup right now. There's few far between that would be better than this one. Get it that these pitchers don't go head to head, but man, there might be a lot of punch outs today. Might be a lot of should be a low scoring game, at least on paper, but it's baseball. We know how these things tend to work out. When we look at the experience between these two lineups going up against these pitchers, Brewers have a little bit more experience going up against Chris Sale, which is to be expected. The guy that has had really, really good numbers against Chris Sale is actually Jackson Chourio. Jackson Chourio, in 12 career at-bats, 417 with a 917 OPS. Contreras, 9 career at-bats, 444 and an 888 OPS. Joey Ortiz, dude, 10 career at-bats, 300 and an 864 OPS. Andrew Vaughn, 7 career at-bats, 286 and an 804 OPS. Gary Sanchez has the most career at-bats against him. Makes sense. Chris Sale, Boston, such American League. 29 career at-bats, 207 and a 491 OPS. For what's worth, Yelich, 7 career at-bats, lefty versus lefty, 143. But you've got Chourio, Contreras, Ortiz. Those three have to be in a lineup today. On the flip side, it's about a game's worth of experience with these hitters going up against Jacob Mizorowski. Literally, like, you've got guys who are 333 because of 3 at bats, so like 1 for 3. But this is like, when we talk about playoff preview, this is like a big time game 1 series in the playoffs where you've got each team's ace, or like a win or go home type of game. When these two guys are on the mound for their respective teams, you're feeling really good if you're a fan, like, we're going to come away with a win. Based off everything, I mean, it could be completely different. Watch, today's probably going to be like a 11-10, 11-9 type of game. But from what we know, I mean, this is going to be low scoring, probably a lot of strikeouts going up against these lineups. So, biggest key, obviously, has to be your offense. And it can't just be one, right? This isn't where one guy can carry it. It's got to be the whole team. It's got to be a collective effort with this whole group. It's got to be dudes that are getting on base. It's got to be dudes who, if you've got runners in scoring position, if you're the Brewers, you've got to get those runs in. If there is an opportunity to score runs, you have to manufacture those runs. Maybe you play a little bit more small ball. Maybe you bunt a little bit more. But we have to assume that runs are going to be hard to come by in today's game. So if you have an opportunity to get a run across the board, to manufacture some runs any way possible, you have to do it. You have to do it. Maybe it's bunting a little bit more. Maybe it's going station to station a little bit more. But I'm looking at, okay, Cheerio, you have great numbers against him. Contreras, though you've been in a little bit of slump, let's go. Get those guys going. Probably be a little bit of a righty-heavy lineup, I would imagine. So Lara's probably going to get a start. We'll see about Mitchell. Frelick could be up with the team, but, again, lefty. I would imagine that maybe Sanchez is still going to probably get in there, so maybe Sanchez is the DH and Yelly is not in the lineup. It'll be interesting to see what the Brewers put together, though, for today's lineup to try to get after Chris Sale and to try to maybe get that pitch count up and get him out of that game. All right, let's take a quick break. Back with more Brewers talk, though, coming up after these quick words. Coming up at the top of the hour at 7 o'clock, we'll do our Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine inside the training room with Dr. Austin Crow. Also, Brandon Berg will be joining us just a little bit later on this morning, closer to the 8 o'clock hour. So we'll do some local sports roundup with him, recapping some of the high school football games in action. Other sports were also kicking off yesterday. I know we had some girls golf action, and volleyball is going on, tennis is going to be going on, cross country. So we'll do a fully loaded local sports roundup brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center just a little bit later on. But if you'd like to send over some of your cream of the crops right now, we'll get to that in the 8 o'clock hour. You can do so. Hit us up at that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912, or again, the Section 105 chat on the video stream. Speaking of that bullpen line, got a couple of messages to catch up on. Don't have a name, can't give any cred for this text, but it says, why the day game today? Something going on tonight in Milwaukee. I don't know the full-on answer, but my guess, and this is just strictly a guess, high school football. Maybe giving a little bit of credit to high school football, giving a little attention to the Friday Night Lights to open up the season. I know a lot of teams were in action yesterday, but maybe just kind of do that possibly. I don't think it has the Packers game because, I mean, the Brewers schedule came out before the Packers preseason game. So, nice call out on Hamilton. Surveyor Sam chiming in this morning saying, good morning, DK and all the listeners. Question for you. With 34 games left, the Brewers have an opportunity to win 100 games this year. Two-parter. Will the Brewers win 100 games this year? And do they need to win 100 to win the division? I think that second part is even more interesting. It's almost, you can make the case. Do they win 100 because they have to? Because the Cubs are just right there. That the Cubs are so, like, they're a few games back, but they're pushing this team. You can't rest on your laurels. You can't kind of, we get to a point where, the last week and a half of the season, last week of the season, say they clinch the division, like, okay, we can kind of rest some guys or shorter starts, shorter outings, anything like that. At this point in time, they're not going to be able to do that. So I've said for the last month or so that I thought they were going to win 100 games. They're at 79 right now. They need to get, so if they got 34 games left, they're going to need to finish 21-13. Let's have a little fun with this. What do you think for the rest of the listeners? Do you think the Brewers will hit the 100 win mark? And I like that second part. I really like that second part from Surveyor. Do you think they have to get 100 wins to win the division? If we just kind of take a peek at the upcoming schedule, we got these 3 games with the Braves. Then it's a quick road trip to the Mets for 3. That's a series you got to win. Rangers, they're fighting for a playoff spot. That's in Milwaukee. And then, of course, we know we got 7 games coming up here with the Cubs still. 4 games at Wrigley. Then you got the Reds, and then 3 more against the Cubbies. Then 3 more with the Reds, 3 with the Pirates, 3 with Baltimore, who right now, they're in a playoff hunt. Maybe that changes towards the end of September when we go up against them, or when the Brewers go up against them. 3 against the Phillies, and then you wrap up the season with the Cardinals. Is there 21 wins in any way possible of those 34 games? You know what? I'm going to stay with it. Why not? Yes. I think they get right at 100. I think they finish 21-13 for the rest of the season. I don't think they need 100 to win the division. But if they hit 97 like they did last year, maybe that's the number to get to that division. Let me just see if I can bring up the Cubs schedule here really quick. And I know it's not maybe like a football schedule we kind of look at, oh, easier portion and all that, but just to kind of give a little bit of a glimpse. I know the Cubs now begin a series today, starting with the Mariners. So they've got the Mariners, they got the Diamondbacks. That could be a good series. Diamondbacks fighting for a playoff spot. They return home against the Reds before welcoming the Brewers for 4 games. Then the Marlins, Pirates, they've got the Braves, Reds, Marlins, and then the Cubs wrap up their season with Boston. I think the Cubs still get mid 90 wins this year. 95, 96, somewhere around there. But yeah, that's a really good question, Surveyor. Look at you coming in early this morning with a good question. I think that's a good benchmark. I'll say slightly no for 100 to win the division, but it's like high 90s. I'll go high 90s. But man, and I'm just looking at some of the standings here. I mean, Braves 75-53 to lead their division. Phillies are just 5 back. Milwaukee's 79-49. They're 5 ahead of the Cubbies. Dodgers 77-51, 9 ahead of the Padres. Kind of your daily update in terms of where the playoff standings are. Yankees, Boston, still the top for the wild card spots behind Tampa Bay, obviously, because they're division leaders in the AL East. Twins and Rangers tied for that final wild card spot. Toronto is now just a half game back. Cleveland is 1 back. Detroit's 1.5 back. Baltimore's 2 back. Seattle's 3 back. This is a big series for Seattle with the Cubbies. So, hey, you know what? Go Seattle. And then it kind of falls off because then you got Kansas City, who's 8.5 back. National League standpoint, it's Cubs, Phillies, Padres. But as we mentioned, Arizona, they're fighting for that spot. They're 1 back. Cardinals are only 2.5 back. Marlins are 4. They're sitting at 500. The Pirates are 5.5. Reds 7. Washington now is 7.5 back. So definitely, there's some really, that's going to be a fun race too for that. Because I think for both the National League and the American League, it's a race for that final wild card spot. It's a little bit closer for the National League between the 2 and the 3. Like Phillies at 70-58, they have the second wild card spot. Padres are 68-60, and Arizona's 67-61. So it's a little bit closer, but really it might come down to a race who's going to win that third and final wild card spot in both the National League and the American League. Looking ahead to the rest of this Brewers series with the Braves. So we know we got Mizorowski and Chris Sale on the mound today. I think whoever wins today's game, you got to be feeling pretty good about your chances to maybe win the rest of the series. You got Logan Henderson on the mound for the Crew tomorrow. It's still, at least according to Brewers.com, still a TBD for the Braves. But, I mean, Logan Henderson, it don't matter who the Braves throw out there. You feel good if you're a Brewers fan that Logan Henderson's getting your start. Now, Logan Henderson's coming off of a very big win on Sunday against the Dodgers. And he's gone up against good teams and good offensive teams so far this year. You talk about a young pitcher who has pitched in some big moments. There's another big game here, especially if the Brewers take game 1. And then you follow it up with Logan Henderson. And then Sunday's game for the Brew Crew over at Williams Sports at the Little League World Series. Shane Drone is scheduled to start for the Brewers. Drone just pitched in relief the other day, but Pat Murphy saying that they're still going to go with that 6-man rotation. He had against the Mariners on, was it Tuesday? The 18th, 2 innings, 1 hit, couple walks, 1 strikeout. But I think, when you look at this 6-man rotation now, with Robert Gasser getting the early pull in the middle of an at-bat yesterday, that leash is short. We saw it earlier this year. It's the second time Pat Murphy has done that with a pitcher to send a message to that pitcher. I like it. You can't start a game 6-0. And you can kind of sense the momentum was maybe starting to shift back to the Mariners. They're chipping away at it. 6-4. You can kind of sense it was like, uh-oh. I like it. It's like, no, we're not going to mess around. Pull it. Because you have your faith in that bullpen. You have the faith in those arms, those guys in there, that they're going to stop the bleeding. They're going to stop that momentum. They're going to get your team back on track. So I like what Pat Murphy did. It'll be interesting to see, because I still think they want to go with the 6-man rotation. Robert Gasser, how do you, if you get another start, how do you respond? We've said it many times. For me, now that Sproat isn't on the Major League Ball Club, Gasser is the one that makes me a little bit more nervous just because of the inconsistencies, the highs and the lows. How do you respond then for your next start? Before we take a break, Steve, are you talking about for the Packers tonight? Because Seabob just with the text, who makes a case that they deserve a roster spot tonight? Well, I mean, we're going to hit that up coming in the next hour. I threw out the question early on. Who are you watching for tonight? Give me your top 5 players, or give me something or somebody that you're going to be paying attention to the most. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, Seabob. So I want to hit up a little Packers talk coming up in the next hour. But you can start to hit me up with your picks right now. Text it on over, all right? 715-830-1912. Let's take a quick break as we wrap up the first hour already this morning. Flying on through. We'll be right back in just a couple minutes. We got about 8-9 minutes left to the top of the hour. So again, just a quick reminder that that we got Dr. Austin Crow for our Inside the Training Room, Triple Valley Orthopedics Sports Medicine, coming up just past 7 o'clock. And then Brandon Berg will be joining us a little bit closer to the 8 o'clock hour. So we'll catch up with Brandon. And that's why we are going to save our Packers talk. So we don't have to talk Packers with a Vikings fan, right? We're going to do our Packers talk coming up after we chat a little bit with Dr. Austin Crow. So, again, hit me up. Who are you watching for tonight? Who will you be paying attention to tonight when it comes to the green and gold? All right, give me some players. Give me some top 5. I got top 5, but I want to hear some of your players because you know what? I might still change mine if I hear a good one from the rest of you. So shoot that message on over. All right, curious to get your thoughts on what you're going to be paying for. I think it's a big game. I think it's a big preseason game number 2 because I do wonder when we get to the Cardinals game next Friday, how many starters we're actually going to see. I think you're going to see these starters get more out of the joint practice with the Cardinals next week. So I think this is an important-ish type of game because let's start to see, all right, the cream rise to the top. Let's get, who are going to be those starters? Who you got to start to figure out roles and positions and who's won jobs. That's the big thing. I'm not saying when we get to next week that all the jobs are going to be lined up, but I think a majority are, and there still might be a couple of potential openings. So, but I think we have to start to see where this team is going to start to roll with, who they're going to start to roll, go with at starting guard, maybe the corner group, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, hit me up with your top 5 players or things to watch. If you don't have a top 5, but you got a couple off the top of your head, that works too. Okay, that works too. No worries on that. But again, Brewers afternoon game today. So just put it on your schedules if you're going to be stuck at work yet and you're like, oh gosh, I want to check out, I want to listen to that Brewers game. Reminder, first pitch is at 3:10. 3:10. Coverage will begin about 35 minutes prior. You can listen to that game on the radio dials, 105.1 FM and 790 AM. And then we got a 1:10 game tomorrow. And that might also, to kind of go back to the texter here, they might do a day game today because they're going to do an early game tomorrow because they do have to hop on a plane after that game tomorrow, head on over to Williamsport. So, but nonetheless, it's a 1:10 game tomorrow afternoon, and then 6:10 Sunday nights at Williamsport. I said it with Field of Dreams, and they've done this before. I do give credit. I do like what Major League Baseball does with some of these games. Playing at the Field of Dreams, playing at Williamsport and a couple of other historic fields. I like that they do this to embrace the history, to embrace, playing at the Little League World Series too with all those kids there. I think that's such a fantastic job. Baseball can do that, and they should be doing that. I know it's harder for maybe like the NFL to do it. NBA, maybe they could go maybe to a college court or something like that campus. But, baseball, they have that opportunity to do that. They have these, to go to the Field of Dreams, to go to the Little League World Series, to play these type of games. I'm glad Major League Baseball does that because I think it's really cool. I would love to see the Brewers play at the Field of Dreams, though. I mean, they're one of the closest teams to that, and they're not doing it next year. Was it Boston? Is it Boston and Kansas City that I think is doing it next year that they just announced? Love to see the Brewers get to the Field of Dreams. And if they do, I'd love to go check that one out. I have not been down there yet. I love that movie, and it's definitely on a bucket list for me that I got to go check it out. So, but Brewers sitting there, Surveyor threw out the question, do the Brewers hit 100 wins? And do the Brewers have to hit 100 wins? Do they have to hit 100 wins to win the division? I think that second part is a really, really, really Good question. A few of you saying, I'll just kind of lump you all into one group. We did have a few texts coming in that says, yes, they hit 100 wins. No, they don't need 100 to win the division. Although a couple of you, that's Jim and Ben saying, yes, they need 100 to win the division over the Cubs. So I'd say, yeah, looks like a majority of you so far saying that you think the Brewers hit 100. I know if our friend G-Man is listening, he's probably saying, yes, they hit 100. They'd have to go 21-13 in the final 34 to get that. That's 8 games above 500. And I think part of it too is I picked yes. I think they hit 100. I think it's because they are going to continue to be pushed by the Cubbies in that division. I think they do. They'll set another franchise record for wins in a season. And if they hit 100, now we're going to be talking about is Pat Murphy winning a third Manager of the Year award. I almost feel, I could be completely wrong on this, but I almost feel there's going to be a little bit of voters fatigue, and they might roll with somebody else for that award. I don't, would it be probably the Braves manager if they hold on to win the division? Does Mattingly get it for the turnaround for the Phillies? But gosh darn it, how would you not give it to Pat Murphy? I don't care about voter fatigue. You got to give it to the guy, to the player, to the person, to the manager who's most deserving on that. All right. C-Bob says, I think 98 wins will win the division. Could you imagine being a team winning 97 games and not winning your division? Who better to have that happen than the Cubs? Okay, so C-Bob, do you think, though, the Brewers hit 100? Do you think they hit 100? All right, shot clock is going to cut me off here in about a minute here. So we've got some news updates and then a little bit of a quicker version with Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow, because I know they've got some football activities for this morning. So we'll catch up with the doc for a quick chat. Brandon will be joining us a little bit later on in the 7 o'clock hour, but we're going to hit up some Packers talk coming up in the next hour as we get set for preseason game number 2. Who are you watching? What are you paying attention to the most in this game? I want to hear your picks. Put your scouting cap on. All right. This is the time that you can pretend that you are an NFL GM or an NFL scout or a coach. Or maybe who do you think needs to stand out really? If you want to flip it around the other way, who has to have a really good performance tonight to maybe save their job? Can do that too. We'll be right back to kick off hour 2 after these quick words. All right, hour two kicking off right now on this Friday morning. A big thanks for hanging out with us and wrapping up your week with us. Coming up in a little bit later on, Brandon Berg will be joining us. I know we had some high school football games kicking off their season yesterday, other prep sports in action yesterday, so we'll do some local sports roundup with him. Also, we've got games in action tonight. It is definitely that time of year. We're going to talk a little green and gold since we spent the first hour talking some Brewers. We'll talk a little green and gold with preseason game number 2 on the docket for tonight. But we kick off this hour catching up with our good friend, Dr. Austin Crow, which, Doc, getting ready for the game this morning or this evening?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's game day, baby. Finally here.
Yeah, so it should be a good one. You guys going up against McDonald, who's moving up to 11-man football this year, too.
It is, yeah. Obviously, they're coming off a great season last year as state champs, but clearly it's going to be a transition getting back to 11-man football. So we expect a certainly good game, and those guys have a winning tradition, so I'm sure they're going to come out guns blazing. We've had a good camp, so yeah, I'm excited for some football.
All right. Well, hey, let's jump right into it. We actually have a listener question from Chad for you, and he wants to ask your opinion about Tucker Kraft because he said, could you ask Dr. Crow what time frame, I'm not sure what he means by this, but what time frame for an ACL reconstruction would he have no concerns of a re-injury? Because if he watched Tucker Kraft
Hmm.
practice, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nervous. He's playing with no fear right now.
So that's a good question. So, I mean, I think what he's alluding to is like, is there a window where your risk of re-injury is higher? And there's no real data that says like, well, at month 6, it's little risk. Month 8, that like, I mean, we do know that once 6 months, and we've talked in the past, is like the bare minimum. And a lot of data suggesting you want to get closer to 9, even 12 months out from an ACL reconstruction before you're back. But, we counsel families and patients that there's everyone's itching to get back, and the challenge with the 9 and 12 month numbers is these kids are losing an entire year of sports, and so there's this desire to get back quickly, but you want to make sure the athlete's ready. Now, obviously, NFL players are in a different situation with the level of care they have, and every little bell and whistle that you can do. But on the whole, to answer that question, once you're past the first, let's say 9 to 12 months, I mean, the risk certainly is going to go down significantly. And once you get past that first year, I think it drops off even more. So I'd say there's a number of people who re-injure relatively early. Now, there's never a zero risk, right? I mean, there's not a zero risk for a normal knee. So you can tear your native ACL. So a reconstructed one is certainly possible to tear. But an interesting statistic is if you tear, let's say, your right ACL and you have it reconstructed, when you come back, you're actually 2 times more likely to tear the other knee. So it has to do, we think, with people favoring it and some other conditions as well. But ultimately, it's important to understand that the risk never goes to zero. But once you get past that, I'd say that first year. So if he gets into the season, he's looking good. He really should be ready. And I can tell you, I mean, I've seen it firsthand countless times. These athletes come back and they've really worked hard on their rehab, and the leg feels strong. And it is a good surgery. So we can get these athletes back where they come back on the field and they really feel confident. So they're out there and they look fearless because they are. They're like, I trust this leg. I'm ready to go and I'm ready to play. And that's when you really know an athlete's ready to get back on the field.
How much of that factors in, like, if it's the quote unquote clean ACL tear, or if there's maybe some other issues within that knee that they had to fix?
Yeah, I mean, huge, huge. So the most common ones are going to be additional injuries include meniscal tears. Now, trimming them out, what's called a meniscectomy or repair, those do have differences in long-term outcome. We always like to repair them if we can. If you get a good repair that heals, basically goes back to a native normal meniscus. If you're removing meniscus, it creates more stress in the knee, and then also a little bit of additional instability because the meniscus serves as a secondary stabilizer for the knee. So there's an element there, but those usually people bounce back really well from. It's the real challenge is when you start getting in additional ligament injuries. So what we consider a multi-ligament knee injury. So let's say ACL, MCL, or ACL posterolateral corner, or ACL, PCL, those certainly can really increase the complexity of the surgery and recovery. And then lastly, and the one that usually has the longest term effects is the dreaded cartilage injury. So now it can be, of course, like all things, a spectrum. So you may have a little scuff. It's like, look, no big deal. Maybe that's going to bite you when you're 60 years old. Not as big a deal. You knock off a large piece of cartilage, and there's a large injury there that can be, I mean, not just on the short term, but the long term prognosis changes drastically. So, those are one of the things that we really look out for is like, is there a significant ding to the cartilage? And that can clearly lengthen it. And, like Bakhtiari, with him, sometimes it's just like, look, we just can never bounce back from it because once you damage that cartilage surface, we just have a hard time making it normal again.
I gotta ask about George Kittle here because the latest updates on him, it sounds like, at least from what they are saying, he might actually play week 1, which is less than 3 weeks away here for the 49ers. And to remind listeners, he tore his Achilles in the January 11th playoff game against the Eagles. And there's talk now, the latest update yesterday is that he visited the doc of the Achilles tears that we've been hearing a lot about for the last couple of years, Dr. Neil Atrash. And it sounds like he's potentially lined up to play week 1, even though he hasn't practiced at all. But I mean, if he does play less than 3 weeks or
Hmm.
less than 3 weeks now for that week 1 matchup after tearing his Achilles in January,
Hmm.
how rare is
Hmm.
that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, for like a weekend warrior athlete, that's a reasonable timeline. Like when I repair an Achilles, I mean, I'm usually telling people you're going to be back doing sports, hopefully in that, around 7, 9 month window. But to get back at like a high level, yeah, because I mean, those guys will tell you, yeah, I'm back, but it just doesn't feel normal. And as we all know, NFL players aren't going back just for fun. I mean, they're trying to play at the highest level of football, especially a guy like George Kittle, who's one of the best at his position. I mean, the bar is pretty dang high. So for him to be back at this point, I think is going to be impressive. I think his risk of re-injury is going to be relatively low. I think you may just see he doesn't look as explosive. So I think there's kind of a layered answer there where do I think it's reasonable for him to be getting back in a safety sense? Yes. Do I think he's going to be the player he was last season or previously his level of explosiveness? I think personally he'll probably look a little different at first. But these guys are just built different. So who knows? Maybe he's going to come out and surprise everybody. But I expect it to have a little bit of effect on his overall speed and explosiveness for a little bit longer, and then hopefully it continues to recover.
Going back to a knee injury, former Badger offensive lineman Tyler Biadasz, who is the new Chargers center, but he was carted off with a knee injury, and according to reports, it's damage to his ACL plus additional injuries. Apparently, he's getting more opinions on the injury. But when we hear like the wording of that damage to an ACL, is that still probably a tear
Mhm.
to his ACL?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was. It was. I mean, it's almost certainly an ACL. The question is well, just like the question you asked me a little bit ago, the additional injuries. That's what really raised your eyebrows. So I'm gonna pretty much guarantee it's a complete rupture of the ACL. I mean, it's rare for that to be partial. I mean, we do see partial tears occasionally, but I mean, 90+% of the time, it's an on-off switch. It's like your ACL is good, then it goes, and when it goes, the whole thing goes. So, um, and so you're looking at very, very likely a complete rupture of the ACL. The question is what other damage? And when they start saying that, it's usually not like a little meniscus because they won't mention that. Be like, oh, let's see what other damage. And that's usually alluding to an additional ligament injury. In his case, I don't know if you saw the video, he kind of got rolled up on. My guess is MCL is going to be potentially a player. Just it looked like that's the direction his knee went. And the one nice thing is the MCLs often heal on their own. Now, sometimes to accelerate the recovery, we'll also do a repair reconstruction along with that. But it's nice to be able to leave the MCL alone and let it heal. So hopefully it's an ACL MCL combo. Those are pretty common. They tend to do pretty well. And ultimately they behave a lot like just a standalone ACL injury. But ultimately the MRI is going to give us the answers, and we'll see. But certainly it's always tough to see a guy get injured like that, especially at this time of year when the season's about to take off, because clearly his season will be over.
All right, I'll ask you one more because I know you got to get going here. But running back Jeremiah Love for the Cardinals, rookie running back, he apparently suffered a high ankle sprain in the first preseason game after having 14 touches, running the ball 14 times. If, let's say, you were the doc for the Cardinals with that high
Mhm.
ankle sprain, would you say, hey, shut him down the rest of the preseason because those things can potentially linger throughout the rest of the regular season?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, so high ankles are definitely a different beast than a standard lateral or quote low ankle sprain. So just a quick refresher, that's where you sprain the ligaments that hold the tibia and the fibula together. So the high ankle, those tend to be much more painful, certainly higher incidence of prolonged periods away from sport. So when you look at, the recovery from this, And of course, there's always a severity. This may be a mild one, and they're just like taking it, playing the safe route, which very well could be the case. But these can also be nasty. I mean, you can easily miss 6 to 8 weeks, 2 months plus from a high ankle sprain that's severe. More mild ones, it could just be a handful of weeks. But I can tell you, I promise you, they're going to shut him down for preseason to let it calm down and heal. Of course, he's going to get an MRI, and they'll be able to tell the extent of the injury. Occasionally, you will see an athlete that has a procedure called a tightrope procedure. There's a number of guys at Alabama. There was like a couple years in a row that guys had it. Basically, it's where you take a little metal button on each side of the tibia and fibula and basically squeeze those back together to support the ligament, and allows people to get back a little bit faster. But usually, you're going to do that with a high grade injury. So my guess is that they would just let it heal and see where it goes, especially in a rookie. I mean, they want to avoid surgery if at all possible. So they're going to shut it down for sure. We will know more as they look at his return. If they're saying, look, because week one's not that far away, right? So if it's a legit high ankle sprain, I'm going to tell you there's a good chance he's going to miss the beginning of the season. But if it's a more mild one, he may not. It just depends on the severity.
He's Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine for Inside the Training Room. I know you got to get going, Austin, with football. So, hey, best of luck tonight, and we'll catch up with you again next time. Okay, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have a great weekend.
You got it. There you go. There's Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Could definitely probably game plan for this, that we're going to have some more football injuries to talk with Dr. Austin as the season progresses. All right, let's take a quick break. Speaking of football, let's chat a little Packers preseason game number 2. Who are we watching for tonight? I got my top 5 coming up after these few words. Big thanks to Dr. Austin Crow for always hopping on again for our Inside the Training Room segments every Friday morning, just past 7 o'clock. Hold on. Oh, excuse me. Had to sneeze. Had to shut the mic off. So my apologies again if my voice sounds a little off or anything like that. Allergies are like kicking my butt right now, and I have no idea why. Maybe they're supposed to be, maybe they're bad this right now at this point in time. So I apologize for that. But we got Brandon Berg coming up here a little bit later on this hour. So we'll get to some local sports roundup with Brandon, brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center in just a bit. But this gives us an opportunity, since we spent the first hour talking some Brewers baseball, to chat a little bit about game number 2 for the Packers, preseason game number 2 tonight. Who or what are you going to be looking for when it comes to this game? Well, I've got mine. And I'll just start off with not in no particular order, okay? It's not like, okay, this is the first or this is the main thing that I'm looking for. It's just, it's an automatic. Trace Mack, the rookie kicker, okay? Had a good preseason debut last week against the Steelers. Let's see it again tonight against Denver. Altitude, too. So, hey, maybe smack it a little bit further. That was a bad joke. But that's what I want to continue to see. Okay? So, Trace Mack is always going to be on there. He's going to be on there next week, too. Okay? It's the name of the game. So, let's get that one out of the way. Trace Mack. Then I'm going to kind of lump them all to one. The guards. I'm talking Jacob Monk. I'm talking Aaron Banks. I'm talking Jacob Burton. And I'll even throw Anthony Belton in, even though he's been repping more at tackle for a swing tackle. I think Aaron Banks and Jacob Monk are in a lead for starters. But what if Jacob Burton goes out there and outplays like an Aaron Banks? Because I would be surprised if Jager maybe takes that starting job from Aaron Banks at some point this season, whether it's due to injury or performance. But we got to start to see jobs being won. We got to start to see, okay, this is the group we're going to roll with. Because right now, a lot in preseason and training camp, it's been shuffling in and out with the offensive line. We got to have that cohesiveness. We got to start to develop that cohesiveness. So tonight's, I want to see how Jacob Monk performs. I think Aaron Banks is going to be a starter, but I think that leash is going to be a little short. I want to see Jager Burton in action. So I'm kind of lumping the guards into one group. I want to see also, the obvious one too, the corners. Cisse is CB1. Stay healthy, Brandon. He's going to get some reps, but he's got to stay healthy. That's not necessarily who I'm looking for or watching specifically tonight. It's Keyshawn, Carrington, Benjamin St. Juste. Who's going to be CB2? I think Keyshawn is still going to be that guy. But what if Benjamin St. Juste plays really well? Could he push that? I know there's been some talk about Carrington Valentine potentially being traded, but I'll go on the flip side of this. What if Keyshawn struggles? What if St. Juste is like, okay, could it possibly be Green Bay? Maybe he looks at another corner to acquire. I don't know if they would do that, but if there's really subpar play from those guys, do you trust any of them? You have to ask yourself this question at some point. Do you trust any one of them to be CB2? And with the quarterback groups, Kamal Haynes been getting more reps at that nickel spot without Javon Bullard. Kind of watched 36 when I was at practice the other day. 36 was on that field quite a bit with the ones, along with 27 Oladapo, the safety. So I'm watching kind of those guys. I'm lumping them all into one. The secondary, specifically defensive backs. Xavier, Evan Williams, they're fine. Javon, when he comes back, he's fine. But Oladapo, Kamal Hayden, and the CB2 race. That's the other thing I'm really watching for tonight. I want Denver to throw a ton. I want Denver to throw a ton at these corners. Okay, I want to see them go after them. I want to see them test them all night long. I don't care who's the quarterback for Denver. I want to see them get tested, so maybe we have a better idea. So that's 3. Number 4, I'm kind of just doing a position. I'm lumping them all into one. The edge rushers. Van Ness, he's a starter. But Brenton Cox Jr. is making a play here, you guys. He's maybe making a play to possibly be the guy, maybe the other starter outside of Van Ness. Now maybe that's overhyping a little bit, but he's been balling as of late. We haven't heard a whole lot about Barron Sorrell. So I'm looking for, again, that other edge rusher who's going to start opposite of Van Ness until Micah Parsons comes back. Can Brenton Cox Jr. continue to play at a high level? Is Barron Sorrell going to have himself a night tonight? Any of the other edge rushers that are a part of that group? And then I'm going to go with an A and a B, a 5A and a 5B, because it's hard. It's hard for me to kind of pick which one I look at. But the defensive line, Hargrave, Devontae Wyatt, we know they're in there. But I'm looking maybe for a little bit further down the depth chart. Warren Brinson has had himself a nice camp. Can he continue to do that? Jonathan Ford is massive. Can he maybe take the role? Because lately now, Stackhouse was the guy that was kind of viewed as the nose tackle, but Jonathan Ford has maybe leapfrogged him a little bit. So looking at that interior defensive line, where does Carl Brooks fit in this rotation? The rookie Chris McKellen. I mean, how does that rotation look? Like, we know in a base 3-4, Hargrave's going to be on there. We know Devontae Wyatt is going to be on there. Is it Carl Brooks? Is it Jonathan Ford? Is it Warren Brinson? Is it somebody else? I'm looking at that defensive line group. And then 5B, it's the running backs again. Now, I feel like we know Josh Jacobs, assuming, I know it's not safe to assume, but, he's running back 1. Lloyd's there. Chris Brooks is there. However, if we find out that Jacobs is not going to open up the season with the Packers, maybe it's, from a disciplinary standpoint, they need another running back. So is that Strong? Is that going to be somebody else? Is that a running back from somewhere else? So I'm kind of looking at that. You could throw in there the tight ends outside of, I think Josh Wiley is going to be the backup. They're probably going to have 2 more tight ends, at least 1 more. Who is that? Is that Dabney? Is that somebody else? Is it probably somebody maybe on the free agent market that they acquire in the offseason? You could throw in wide receivers in this thing too. I think we're pretty confident in saying who the top 4 are. It's Watson, it's Golden, it's Reed, it's Savion Williams. But then you kind of get into the question, how many more? They're going to carry at least 1 more. Sky Moore is going to be on there. I'd say he's 5. Do they carry 1 more? Do they carry 2 more? If they carry 2 more, if they carry 7 wide receivers, that means you're losing a guy from another position. So if it's 6, who's it going to be? There's some guys that are battling for that 6th spot. Could easily throw. I might have just talked myself into the wide receiver spot, moving up a little ahead of the the running backs at this point. But the point being, for this second preseason game, we got to see guys now start to win some jobs, start to solidify themselves. We've got to start. We got to see things kind of come into fruition, develop. What's this team going to look like? And when we head into next week's game, the final preseason game, there'll still be a couple jobs up for grabs. And maybe it's that last wide receiver job, or maybe it's that last running back job if we know Jacobs isn't going to miss, or that last tight end job, or that last cornerback job. Devontae Jackson, Didn't mention him when we were talking about cornerbacks, but if he gets out on that field, he's a draft pick. Can he make some noise and maybe make a case to win a spot? There's a lot of things to watch for tonight. So when you approach this game tonight, when you watch this preseason game tonight, if you're watching it, put your scouting cap on. Look at some of these guys. We may not see some of these guys during the regular season on a consistent basis, but their number might be called upon if there's an injury, special teams. That way you're a little bit more familiar with them when that number is called. There's a lot to look forward to tonight, or a lot to watch tonight. All right, we got to take a quick break. Back with more football after these few words. Brandon Berg will be joining us here in a little bit closer to the top of the hour. So we'll get some local sports roundup brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center with Brandon. Also coming up in the next hour, if you want to play along, send us your cream of the crops. All right, who are your cream of the crops? Hit us up with a quick text on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line at 715-830-1912. You can hang out in the Section 105 chat on the video stream. But plus, we'll get back to our Brewers talk with him, too. AJM Automotive, Pump the Brakes, Full Throttle coming your way in the 8 o'clock hour, too. But reminder, Brewers game today, this afternoon, 3:10 first pitch. Packers preseason game tonight at 8 o'clock. We've got high school football games also in action tonight, too. So it should be a busy, busy, busy Friday. But, I kind of went through my top 5 plus, if you will, of what to watch for in tonight's preseason game. And really, you could probably look at a lot. You could almost make the case with almost every single position group here, even like quarterbacks, I guess, for Green Bay. Does Kyle McCord, who had a really good preseason game, number 1, have another one? I don't think he will be the quarterback number 2, but never say never, I guess, at this point. But even like inside linebacker, Zaire Franklin, Edrin Cooper, we've talked a lot about those guys. But what about a Hopper? What about an Isaiah McDuffie? I think those are going to be your 4, but maybe start to see a little bit more from Hopper. I know Matt LaFleur has been singing his praises this training camp, so maybe see a little bit from that. We talked about the defensive line. We talked about the edge rushers. We talked about the corners. And I would just like to see from a special team standpoint, too, are we going to see anybody that maybe wins it like it almost feels like it's an old school type of mentality and feel here? Is somebody going to win a job because of their special teams play? Maybe it's from a gunning standpoint, making plays. So I also feel like Green Bay has a good idea, a great idea of what their roster is going to look like come week 1 against Minnesota. Like, we know there's some locks into this thing. And I think there's probably, if we look at a 53-man roster, 45 locks on this thing. So with game 2 tonight, maybe some jobs up in the line. But I think, locks are different in terms of, who's starting and who's not. Like, we know Jacob Monk's going to make the team. We know Jagger Burton's going to make the team. The question is, are they going to be a starter to open up the season? We know Baron Sorrell and, probably Bretton Cox Jr. are going to make the team. But are they going to be a starter? Same with a lot of those defensive linemen. That's where I want to see this kind of start to come into focus. Start to figure this thing out. So I think there's a big chunk that, okay, we know who the locks are going to be, but maybe that last cornerback spot or that last wide receiver or that last offensive lineman, those are the jobs that might still be up in the air. And that's where tonight's game and then next week's game, plus joint practice. Don't overlook the joint practice portion of next week with the Arizona Cardinals. A lot of those starters, that's where they're probably going to get most of their and their best work in. So it's those bottom of the roster type of things. And so there's a little bit to look at with this game. Maybe some guys winning jobs, but also where's that depth chart? Does somebody leapfrog somebody in terms of the depth chart for a starting spot? Or maybe a primary backup spot. Primary, kind of utility man, if you will. That's what I'm looking forward to tonight. Put your scouting cap on. Who do you got? What are you watching for? Who are you looking for? What are you paying attention to the most in tonight's game? Let me know. Hit me up with a text, 715-830-1912. Or you can hang out in the Section 105 chat room. So, all right. Tell you what, let's take a quick break because I think Bray is going to be here in just a few minutes. So we'll wrap up the second hour with him. Third hour, like on every Friday on a TGIF open house party, it's a busy one. We'll open it up with some cream of the crop, and then we'll do a little local sports roundup brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center. And then we'll play a little Pump the Brakes Full Throttle, brought to you by AJM Automotive. We'll get back to some more Brewers talk. Big game this afternoon. Chris Sale, Jacob Mizorowski, big series with the Braves. We'll get back to some more Brewers talk. And, of course, preseason week number 2. So let's take our quick break, and then we'll start to wrap up the second hour and approach halftime. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Wrapping up the second hour here. We got about 13 minutes to the top of the hour. He is live and with us, Mr. Brandon Berg, sports editor of the Chippewa Herald, and we'll get to local sports roundup coming up in the next hour. But officially got underway with football yesterday. We had golf though in action too, so everybody's kind of in action.
Yeah, all the sports are underway with practice right now. And by this time next week, everyone should be in game or event action.
Nice.
Pretty much.
So we are back to the grind.
We're back.
We are back. So, well, appreciate you hopping on again with us this morning. You got a busy day today, too, because we've got Brewers with the afternoon game.
I kind of like that. I mean,
I do, too.
I'm assuming part of that is because I know the game tomorrow obviously is like noon or 1 because they're heading over to Williamsport. Like, I don't know if that's part of that.
Yeah, somebody had asked that, too. I don't know if it's part of that. I'd like to think maybe it's, hey, they're giving high school football. I mean, I wouldn't be against that.
Yeah. Maybe, I mean, Packers, it's a preseason game, but still,
I feel like the schedule came up before the Packers preseason one.
Right. So
I'm not sure, but
let's put it this way. I'm not entirely sure the reason, but
I like it.
You just appreciate it when you get it. So
yep. I like it. So be Chris Sale taking on Jacob Mizarowski. So should be a fun one for tonight. Then you got Logan Henderson tomorrow too. So, but yeah, I mean Brewers wise picking up the win yesterday after 6 runs in the first. They were able to put up that solo shot from Garrett Mitchell. Robert Gasser getting pulled up midway through an at bat. Again, was it Brandon Sproat that last time? Pat Murphy. Okay,
it was. And I had seen some speculation too, just because obviously when that happened with Brandon Sproat, he ended up going to the minors like right after that. And
yeah.
So, and Coleman Crowe has been pitching well at AAA, so it's like, oh, okay. It's like, well, we'll see. I think it's I don't think the situation's quite the same.
Yeah.
Even though the ending, I guess, of that of that outing was, but
right, yeah, that's going to be the interesting because I know they still said they want to do the 6-man rotation, which we're going to see Drone pitch again this weekend. He came in relief on Tuesday. And got a little bit of work in, which I hope they continue to do the 6-man to try to keep those arms fresh. So
if you can do it, and more often than not, the starters have been holding up their end of the deal. Mm-hmm. And also the biggest thing too is, remember, once you get to September 1st, you get to add 2 players. You get to add a pitcher and a position player. So suddenly, then you're not really down a player in the bullpen.
Right.
So.
So you would think it would be another bullpen arm that they would add?
I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, you have it's going to be a pitcher and a position player. Like you can't just add 2 pitchers. Yeah. Like you have to have. There's a certain minimum and maximum you can have of pitchers and position players.
Right.
Usually that only comes into play more for pitchers than position players. But so yeah, if they can kind of get through it and get to September 1st, I mean, at that point, then you might as well just do it. Like as long as it's not actively hurting you, and obviously it's not right now, you might as well just keep doing it to kind of help with innings and and just continue to do what works.
That's going to be interesting to what position player they would get to at that point.
To me, the one I thought of was Lockridge, just because it might be someone that you call up that doesn't play a lot, and so
because it can't be a prospect because you want them to play.
Right. So he's someone that obviously, as a little bit older, I think he's someone that kind of would understand that role. I mean, he essentially was playing that role since he got called back up.
Right.
I mean, you would think that we are not too far away from Sal Frelick being,
possibly even today.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see because he went back down to to play with Nashville and
found a home run ball. He's got a couple home runs now. So
there you go. So
Summer Sal. Fall of Sal.
No,
we don't want that. So
the autumn of Sal.
The autumn of Sal.
There you go. Yeah, a better way to say it. So.
Yeah, I don't know if he'd start with a left-hander if he does get called up. That's the other part.
Yeah, I think I think that there's a way to do it between the 3, between Lara, between Mitchell, between Frelick, where you can kind of mix and match. Jake Bauer still might get some time there, just because you keep that bat in the lineup somehow, and obviously Andrew Vaughn offensively is doing well too. So they want to you just kind of. I think it's just gonna be one of those things where you kind of mix and match. And I think all those guys kind of understand that.
Right. Yeah. So because my first thought was like, oh, could it be Joe Williams because center he could play outfield, he could play left field, but you're right. You're going to have that extra guy. It's not necessarily somebody who's going to play.
Right. I mean, I think someone like Lockridge would make a lot of sense just because, you can still use him as like a late game pinch runner, defender, whatever. But he's not a guy that if he only gets like an at bat or 2 a week, you're nervous about.
Yep.
Just because he's a little bit older, At this point, we have a pretty good idea who Brandon Lockridge is, which he can be a useful player in the right spots. But,
Right.
Versus if you bring up whoever from the minors and they don't maybe have a chance to play a lot, like you're kind of, that's not going to help their development. Versus Brandon Lockridge, a guy who's upper 20s, his development's probably pretty much already developed. So
Right. Bullpen wise, could that be a Sprout where he comes back and he's part of the bullpen?
Could be. I mean, it could be a longer lever guy. I mean, could it be like a Garrett Stallings who impressed last time he was up? Maybe another guy that can give you some length if you need it. A second long reliever like Bryce Wilson, to where you might be able to use Bryce Wilson in a little bit higher leverage spots because he's definitely showed he deserves it.
Right.
But yeah, just someone that hey, if you're up 8-2 or you're down 8-2, you can just tell somebody, hey, can you go eat 3 innings or 2 innings for us?
Right. Yeah. So, that's coming up here rather soon. What?
A couple weeks.
Less than a couple weeks here. So,
week and a half.
Coming up here really quick. I kind of forgot about that too. So, but then Logan Henderson, and then we got Shane Drone on Sunday to wrap up the series. Which, Williamsport Sunday night game, which will be kind of fun to. I like when baseball does that. The Field of Dreams, the Williamsport, they do that sort of stuff. So
yeah, kids might be a little bummed because they're just missing out on Miz and Chris Sale. So
yeah, right. No kidding. That would have been fun for them to be able to watch that. Not a lot of offense probably in that game to be played, but hey, watch then. Gosh forbid today will be like a 10 to 9 game.
Yeah,
or
watch this one guy that is really good and throws really fast, and this other guy that's just been really good for a long time.
Yeah. Yep. But so I'll ask you a question here because we got about 7 minutes left to the top. Surveyor Sam threw this out earlier on. It's kind of a two-parter. We've dabbled in the whole 100-win thing. But I'll ask the second part they asked, do they need 100 wins to win the division? That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, the pressure's staying on. Like, the Cubs keep winning. It maybe because, and I don't think it's a bad thing because I do like the fact that they're kind of they're having to stay playing, and look, it's still more than a month out, so they'd be still playing regardless. But it doesn't. Let's put it this way: it doesn't look like the Brewers are going to run away and clinch this with a week and a half to go.
Right.
So. Yeah, I mean, it might be one of those things that they kind of get, not because necessarily they were chasing it, but because they were getting pushed towards it.
Right. That's kind of where I was at. Like, they might have to just because I could see it being like even high 90s, 98, 99, 97.
Right, because it was 97 last year, right?
Yep. Yeah. So. Yeah, that's what the Brewers had. So I think that's the more interesting part is, do they need 100 to win that division? And
do they need 100 to ultimately maybe get the 1 seed?
That was the other part, too. Somebody had said they'd need 100 to get the 1 seed because you have the Dodgers sitting there,
thankfully, the Brewers do have the tiebreaker on the Dodgers, which is helpful.
Yep.
Braves, I believe, did they take 2 or 3?
I'll have to double check. I can't remember.
Yeah, so I thought they might have earlier in the year.
I'll look it up right now for you.
But either way, obviously, that would be one that would be kind of nice to get.
Yeah.
Just in case. So, although they're coming off a bit of a tough time with the Twins.
They are. No, it's not popping up right now. I'll look at it later.
Yeah.
So, but here we go. I got it. They the Brewers. It looks like. Nope, that was back in 20. So gotta go 2026. Brewers took 2 out of 3.
Oh, okay. I mean,
they won the first 2.
And then lost third.
And then lost the third.
Okay, so I mean, hey, if they win this series, then you can.
Yeah, that was that series 3-2, 4-3, and then they lost 4-9.
Okay, I mean, it's funny that was only back in that was early. That was what, April?
June.
Wow.
It says June 19th, 20th, and 26th.
I mean, I'm getting old, but
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that things can happen in baseball like a few months ago, and it just seems like it was forever.
I know. And it's like not even 2 months, or about 2 months at this point. But yeah, who pitched in those games? Let me see if I can find it quick. So we got to go back to June here. That's July. Okay, here we go. That ain't right. Go back up here a little bit more. Here we go. Okay, so June 19th. Oh, Miz pitched in that 3. Wait, actually the Braves won 3-2. So I might have had it backwards. Hold on here a second. Miz pitched in that game. He went 5 innings, 2 earned runs. But also, Perez pitched in that one. So Brewers lost 3-2 on that Friday game of June 19th. It looks like so. Flip flop it. Do a little flip flop.
Snip snap, snip snap.
Snip snap, flip flop. And then the second game on June 20th, we had. Oh, I remember these games now too, because I think the Brewers had these leads and then they lost. So it was a 4-3 loss by the Brewers. And in that game, was that Harrison pitching? Yeah, Kyle Harrison, 6 1/3, 4 hits, just 2 earned runs. But again, no offensive production. Chris Sale pitched in that game, 5 2/3.
I remember that now. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. But now that you bring that up, I remember that game.
Yep. So and then the Brewers won. So yeah, the Braves have the season series so far.
Okay, so they're up 2-1. So okay, well
yeah.
then.
Misspoke. I was looking at that website I had. I think had it backwards on there. So, but then the Brewers came back and won 9-4 in that third game to avoid it being swept. Who pitched in that game? Just kind of curious to see. Maybe it was Logan. It was a 9-4 win, and it was.
Did they score like a bunch early in that game?
They did. Robert Gasser actually pitched in that game. They put up 8 runs in the second inning of that game. So, yeah. Braves-wise, who pitched in that game? That was Elder. That's right. Yeah, he went 6 innings, 12 hits, 8 earned runs.
Kind of had to eat it after that second inning, saying, sorry, we need innings.
Yep.
So,
and then Lopez wrapped it up with 3 innings. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, be the second time this lineup has faced Sale. The second time the Braves have faced Mizorowski, though, too. They did not face Logan Henderson, which they're going to have to on Saturday. But going back really quick, we just got 2 minutes left. That Sunday game with the Dodgers and Logan Henderson and Skubal. You look at some of the starts that Logan Henderson's had. First of all, it's crazy to think he's only had 17 or 18 career starts. The guy has pitched against some great lineups and great other, he is. We talked about Mizorowski with this last year with the moment not being too big. It sure seems like Logan Henderson's embracing that too.
Right. And it still boggles my mind how he pitches, because there's nothing about the stuff maybe that is too dynamic. He doesn't throw super hard. Really, he's kind of a 2-pitch pitcher right now. Still fastball, changeup, mixes in the cutter, mixes in some other stuff a little bit. And you just see hitters never really get many good swings off him. There were several times where he threw a fastball that looked pretty hittable, but a hitter for whatever reason just didn't pick it up or wasn't expecting it, or
right.
When the pitchability with him is just off the charts.
Right. Yeah. That was a lot of fun. All right. Shot clock's going to cut us off. So we'll kick off the next hour with what we usually do on Fridays to kick off the 8 o'clock hour with a little cream of the crop. And then we'll get into some local sports roundup brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center. And then also coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, our AJM Automotive, Pump the Brakes, Full Throttle. So a busy 8 o'clock hour coming up after these quick news updates.
They're high, really high, Jamie. 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 They're high.
All right, here we go. The third quarter, third hour kicks off right now on this Friday morning of August 21st. Thanks for hanging out with us and making us part of your start here. We've got Local Sports Roundup brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center. Coming up in just a little bit, we'll do some AGM Automotive Pump the Brakes Full Throttle. We got Brewers game today, 3:10, Miz versus Sale. Packers preseason game number 2 tonight. Put your scouting caps on, peeps. Who or what are you watching for the preseason game tonight? So we got Brandon Berg also hanging out with us for the final couple hours. Let's kick it off with cream of the crop. Berg, I'll hand you the honors. Who you got for your cream of the crop?
I'm going to go with Jacob deGrom.
Okay.
Second fastest pitcher to get 2,000 strikeouts. Probably would have got it even quicker, but obviously he's had some injuries here in recent years. But still, I mean, one of the more dynamic pitchers of this era. I mean, when he was at his best, I mean, obviously he was, Cy Young winner. Kind of a guy that in some ways broke the mold a little bit because he was one of the first guys to kind of win it when people stopped just like looking at like surface level stuff. Like I said, if I remember correctly, like did he win it with like either a losing record or like
it was like 500 or something?
It was it was not a sparkling record, but then people kind of started to understand. Okay, pitcher's record isn't necessarily always on the pitcher.
Right.
If you don't get run support, I mean, if you got a 500 record and you got an ERA of like 2,
yeah,
obviously that's not all on you.
Yep.
So, but yeah, a guy that was able to get to 2,000. Yeah, former a 2-time Cy Young winner. So yeah,
that's a good one. I've actually got 2. Got 2.
Deuce.
One, this is just a cool story. Brewers Timber Rattlers player Sawyer, is it Strasnyder?
I think it's Strasnyder. Yeah,
Strasnyder. It's a really cool story.
Draft pick this year that just joined the T-Rats. Outfielder.
Hit his first home run. The cool story of it is the person who caught it was his dad. His dad's Scott.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool. The Athletic has a good story about it right now. If you want to go read it, including some of the cell phone video, saying like his dad was recording the at bat and he had to get rid of the phone because the ball was coming right there. So I mean, come on, you can't script that any better than that. That's a cool story. So that's one. Number 2, how about Northwoods League Manager of the Year, Dale Varsho is our cream of the crop. That was just announced, I believe, yesterday. So, cream of the crop, Mr. Dale Varsho, Manager of the Year for the Northwoods League. So, those are my 2 cream of the crops.
There you go.
But, all right. Speaking of which, let's get right to it here. I got to bring something up. Hold on. I'm just I'm doing a little delay tactic here. But Come on, you gotta load up. Here we go. Oh no, I don't want to install updates. Let's do local sports roundup brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center. We might as well start off with football that kicked off yesterday because we had quite a few local teams in action.
We did.
And we'll start off with Chi because you were there.
Right. Yeah. Chippewa Falls opening the season with a 50-22 victory over DC Everest. And overall, I'd say an impressive outing. Ran for more than 430 yards. Defensively, forced 4 turnovers, covered 3 fumbles, took advantage of some miscues from Everest. Also had an interception, blocked a punt. Special teams, strong mention the block punt. Gavin Schultz making a couple field goals as well, including one from 42 yards, which is not an easy jaunt in high school and as some teams would say in college or in the pros.
Right.
But a really good outing. Chatting with Coach Rakovic after the game, he mentioned that, he was pretty pleased with what he saw and just felt like they were able to get a lot of guys in there, even when they were playing. Like, this is going to be a Chi team this year, I think, has a deep roster of guys that they kind of throw out there. I mean, they had 5 or 6 different kids carrying the ball in the first half.
Wow.
Like, they just have a group that they really like, and to be able to come out and get a win against DC Everest, who won the Wisconsin Valley Conference last year. Just a really strong start for the Cardinals.
Yeah, absolutely. I know North, they fell to Superior last night. Memorial fell to New Richmond, who's a really good team too.
Right.
Last night, some other teams that were in action last night.
Wausau West picking up a 36-21 win over Menominee in Mitch Olson's debut with the Mustangs. Hudson picking up a big 52-7 win over Wisconsin Rapids. Stevens Point, who might be the favorite in the Wisconsin Valley, picking up the 41-18 win over River Falls. So, on the first night, the Big Rivers, all those games are Big Rivers versus Wisconsin Valley. Big Rivers wins 4 out of the 6. I mean, otherwise, looking around, Boyceville picking up a big win over Ladysmith, 41-6. That's a Boyceville team that's probably a favorite or the favorite in the Dunn St. Croix. I mean, they had a little turnover from last year, but that's still a program that's really, come a long way in the last several years and is one of the premier Division 7 teams you're going to see around here. Glenwood City shutting out Levis-Drum 43-0. That might be one of their top contenders in the Dunn St. Croix. Otherwise, kind of looking around, Gilman starting the 8-player season with a 57-0 win over Phillips. I mean, Gilman's a team that is going to be in the hunt for for potentially a trip to the 8-player state tournament. Alma Center Lincoln 42-18 over Turtle Lake. Turtle Lake first game in 8-player after having a solid year last year and the last year of 11-player. But yeah, Alma Center Lincoln looking to be a solid team, and the North Central East Conference, which has got Gilman, Owen Withy, Thorpe, adding in some other teams from Athens and former state champion program in Wausau Newman and Wisconsin Rapids Assumption. I mean, there's some turnover in that conference with McDonald even, but that conference is still going to be great.
Yeah. So games tonight, I know we got McDonald making their return back to 11-man football. Tough test going up against Regis tonight at Carson Park, and you're going to be at that game?
I will be there, yeah. That's when I'm looking forward to just kind of seeing what it looks like for McDonald. I mean, they're jumping back in both feet, going up against Eau Claire Regis. That's a program that, coming in the year ranked number 2 behind Clover Belt Conference rival Mondovi in the Bound Wisconsin Division 6 state poll. So, Brian Brenner brings back, a good amount of all conference level talent. And, they're always going to have other guys that are ready to step up and take on bigger roles. So, no, I'm looking forward to kind of seeing how that looks, tonight. And the first time that those teams have matched up since 2010.
Wow,
so,
2010?
2010, yeah. After that, McDonald moved, I believe that's when they moved to the Cloverwood. And at that time, the Cloverwood was a 10-team conference, so they had 9 conference games. So there was just never a non-conference spot.
Wow.
And then it was pretty much that way until 2016. Then they moved 8-player, and obviously, they haven't been able to meet since. So yeah, that was I remember that game well too. That was a crazy game. It was a 49-41 Regis win. That Regis led 42-7 at halftime. And McDonald, future Texas Rangers pitcher Kyle Cody was the McDonald quarterback. They made a big rally before the Ramblers closed that game out. Just one of those wild back and forth games, and yeah, that was the last one until this one.
Wow, interesting. What other games are kind of in action around our area for tonight too?
A couple games I kind of got my eye on here. First of all, Edgar at Cadott. Edgar, Division 6 runner-up last year. I'm looking at this as a very interesting litmus test for Cadott. And kind of talking with Coach Todd Rickle when I visited the Hornets earlier on in the preseason, he kind of said the same thing, where there's a lot of excitement in town about this because even if you don't know much about high school football, you know Edgar.
Yeah.
That's just one of those premier programs that you're aware of what they do on a consistent basis. They're always really, really good. And for a Cadott team that has some pretty high expectations this year, bringing back a lot from last year, could be a contender in the Lakeland Conference and beyond into the Division VII postseason. This is a very good test for them where, win or lose, like if you put together a competitive effort and loss, like you're going to feel good about that going into next week, which is another big game for them when they play Stanley Boyd. Otherwise, I'm going to give a shout out to this one, Augusta at Colfax. These are two programs the last few years that have struggled a little bit, just numbers wise, and as far as just kind of consistently being competitive. But this is a game that, hey, one of these teams is going to start out. I think both of these teams, I believe they went winless last year, so they kind of come into the game with, looking to snap some skids. But one of these teams is going to do it tonight. This honestly could be one of the more kind of competitive and very interesting games of the night. So, that's going to be, I think, a fun one to watch. You got Altoona at Fall Creek. That's a rivalry game there. Altoona coming off one of its best seasons here in recent memory.
And they got a new coach too.
And they got a new coach.
Yep.
Fall Creek was a playoff team last year, picked up a big win in the postseason. I believe Shatek Weyerhaeuser last year. So that's a team that's returned some playmakers. So that could be kind of a low-key fun one. Mondovi, we mentioned earlier on, they're going to GET. That could be one. Your Medford Raiders are taking on Holman. That's a couple teams that could be contenders in their respective, conference. Otherwise, you got Marshfield and Rice Lake, which is going to be kind of an interesting one. Some turnover there with Rice Lake, but we know they're going to be competitive when push comes to shove. Otherwise, kind of looking around, another 8-player game I'm kind of interested in is Thorpe and New Auburn. New Auburn made the playoffs last year. Thorpe just missed out. Those could be 2 playoff teams this year, but they're playing very tough conferences. So every win you get could be that little bit extra that you need when it comes to the end of the season. So that's I think an interesting one too.
Yeah, that's a heck of a slate of games.
A really fun one, and there's some other ones too. You got Stanley Boyd at Colby. That's a that's a game that has been very high profile over the years. Both those teams looking to kind of work their way back up in their respective conferences, but that's one that just has a lot of history with it.
Yep.
And those are kind of matchups I always enjoy as well.
Absolutely. I know also, too, high school football has been kind of the big thing, but you were checking out some golf yesterday, too,
Yes,
it looks
yeah,
like.
we got going with, we've got teams that have already played 3 or 4 golf events this year. And yeah, yesterday I was at, I was up in Bloomer. That's where I started my day for the Clovercroy conference meet. Up there where Stanley Boyd girls finished first as a team. While Alexis Ness from Osseo Fairchild was the low individual with Clara Kongshog from Colfax Elkmound second there. But the Clovercroy, interesting setup this year. Last year, Colfax Elkmound making it to state. Some turnover there, but still some good golfers. Obviously, I mentioned Kongshog is one of them. That's going to be very interesting, and that's, as the name suggests, that's a kind of an amalgamation of Cloverbelt and Dun St. Croix, and even a couple Lakeland schools in there. You got Prairie Farm Clayton, that's a co-op that's in there. Owen Withy's new to it this year. So it's a conference that is really growing, kind of a smaller school girls golf conference. And, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see because, there was some, last year, Belle Kongshog and all the great things she was able to do individually and also with the team. But you had Ella Nelson from Bloomer who made the state last year, golfing in that conference. It's turning into a good girls golf conference. And then the Big Rivers, they've got some events under their belts. They're going to get going with conference stuff, I believe, next week. So it's going to be interesting to follow along with that. But yeah, girls golf and girls tennis, those are, besides football, are the 2 sports that are underway. And today and tomorrow, Altoona's hosting a pretty big girls tennis invite. A lot of local teams are there. I know Chippewa Falls is there, Bloomer's there. There's obviously some other ones from this area that are there. So that's going to be a couple days of pretty busy tennis action there, too.
Yeah.
And they're going to jump into conference play next week as well.
So volleyball got it going on, too?
They're near the end of their first week. You'll have a lot of teams having scrimmages tomorrow.
Okay.
But next week, you're going to see some things going on. Most notably, and we'll probably talk about this next Friday morning, the W Stout Sprawl, which is always a gigantic tournament, a 2-day tournament over at Johnson Fieldhouse. You get a lot of local teams. I mean, I know just in my neck of the woods, you're going to have Chippewa there, you're going to have McDonald there, you're going to have Bloomer there, Stanley Boyd, Cadott, New Auburn's there. There's a lot of other ones. The Eau Claire schools are there. I mean, it's just such a. If you like volleyball, you just want to go find a bunch of good volleyball to watch. You can see that there. Barron's there. I mean, there's just a lot of almost in many ways, a lot of the who's going to be who for the teams in this area this fall are probably playing at the Sprawl.
Gotcha. Cross country too?
Cross country, same thing. They're going to be getting going with some events going next week, kind of coming to the end of the first week of practice here. And we'll obviously be able to touch base on that a little bit more once the events start going. But again, some good, a lot of good programs around here. It was kind of a really strong year for the area last year. And I'm kind of excited to see how that follows up.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Boys soccer will get underway next week as well with
Yep.
some games. They're kind of finishing up their first week of practice as well. I mean, those last three sports were the last three that got going this week. So girls swimming is underway as well. So, I mean, by this time next week, pretty much all these sports are going to be in with regular season game action.
Nice. All right. That's your local sports roundup brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center. Let's take a quick break and let's do a little AJM Automotive pump the brakes full throttle, shall we? We'll be right back after these few words. All right, it is time to do some pump the brakes full throttle. Brought to you by our good friends from AJM Automotive. So let's jump right into it and let's kick it off with a little Brewers one. Pump the brakes full throttle. Brewers should send Robert Gasser down and promote Coleman Crow.
I'll pump the brakes for now. I mean, obviously, yesterday was not what they were looking for, and when you pull someone in at bat like Murphy did, there's some frustration there, as we saw with Brandon Sproat.
Yep.
But maybe I should take a look at the numbers in front of me. I'm just kind of anecdotally, it seems like he's been all right. Like, there's been some good, some bad, but like that happens with your sixth starter.
Yeah.
Like obviously this team has been so good that maybe sometimes we may have the higher expectations for everybody. But I mean, look, the 4.79 ERA is not stupendous, but no, I think the advanced numbers are okay. Like you could do that, but like I don't think it's like a necessity. So I would still pump the brakes on, I think.
I'm indifferent on this one. I might tap the full
It's your
throttle.
question.
I know. I might tap the full throttle on this one and say, I might give it a go. The thing is like I don't think Robert Gasser is a good option of the pen.
No, he's one of he's one of those guys where either he has to be in the rotation or he's good. Like, yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Like Shane Drone, you could do that with.
Yep.
But he's been a better starter. But yes, I would agree with that.
Do you think? Was it
Sometimes
Brandon Sproat could be a good option on the pen too, or
I think there's things that he does or how he throws that make sense. Like it does seem like over the course of his starts, like he would lose velocity. So maybe he wasn't stretched out or that quite at that strength peak he needed to be to. So maybe in short bursts would be better. Obviously, his stuff is already pretty good, but maybe it would even play up a little bit more in relief when you could just kind of let it fly. But it's one of those things where, like, man, I would have to see him do it there for a bit before I had any trust in it, just because it's been a struggle for him.
Right.
Like, it's possible, but I could see a world where it works out, but I would need to see it for quite a bit before I would trust it.
Gotcha. All right, so. Let's go pump the brakes full throttle. When Sal Frelick comes back, they should bat him at the leadoff spot.
Ideally, if he is back to what we've seen from him in the past, I would like to see it. But I'm going to pump the brakes until we see how his shoulder is.
Yeah.
If his shoulder, if it's feeling good, and I do think now we can obviously use hindsight, but I do think that was impacting his bat.
Yeah.
I want to see him be productive in wherever he's batting first.
Yeah.
And this is something I've said in the past and I think you and I have agreed on this, where it does seem like in his career, like that's where he's kind of been most comfortable.
Yeah.
Even though, like, I don't know, like, you can still kind of take that approach to things if you're hitting seventh. But, like, for whatever reason, just when he's been there, it seems like it's clicked for him.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's back to 100% and playing the way we know he can play, then yes.
I'm full throttle on that too, but I completely get what you're saying, and it makes sense. It's just I look at this lineup now. Like, would it be? The thing is, you'd have to almost move Terang to the 3. I feel
Right, because you want to try to split the lefties.
right.
Because you're not because then you're giving opposing teams an avenue with a left-handed reliever.
Right. So it'd have to be like Frelick, Concherio, Terang, then Contreras, and then Bowers maybe.
Yeah, but
then Contreras is kind of batting further down
right,
the lineup. So
yeah, but is there a certain spot where inevitably like? Yeah, I mean, but otherwise, is that a spot where you do go lefties back to back because Jake Bowers has hit lefties well this year?
Yeah.
So maybe that's a spot where you go because I mean, you still want Jake Bowers to maybe be getting at bats with those guys on base.
Right.
What about Joey Ortiz?
I was so here. That's actually was my next one. Pump the brakes full throttle. Do you move Joey Ortiz up in the lineup?
I mean, full throttle because he's being very productive. At the same time, though, it's not a bad thing to have a bat like that near the bottom, given this team's on base percentage and how much it has guys on. I mean, look, how many times have we seen Joe Ortiz come up to play with the bases loaded?
A lot.
And that's
kind of the
that's
running
hitting
joke.
8th or 9th in the lineup. So, like, it's not as if he's not getting run producing opportunities in that spot.
Right.
But ideally, with your lineup construction, you have your best hitting hitters towards the top of the lineup or higher up than maybe they've been if they're really thriving. So
I might pump the brakes kind of for the same reasons we were just saying about Sal Frelick. Maybe don't mess with a good thing that's going on right now with Joey Ortiz. You know, it's like one of those, it's almost like you got to treat it with precious glass or precious cargo where you don't want to like mess around with it too much.
Right.
You know, I don't know if that's a thing. I don't know if that's a mindset. Like, okay, now you're like at the top 3. It's like, okay, you put a little bit more pressure on yourself because you're viewed as that hitter. But
but these are things hitters remember, and you bringing it up reminds me of Carlos Gomez, where he hit around the lineup like with his speed and stuff. He was used near the top of the lineup against lefties at times earlier in his career before he really blossomed, just became an everyday guy. And I remember him being asked when he started hitting in the middle of the lineup about it, and his response was something along the lines of like, when he hits in the middle of the lineup, he feels sexy. Which is such a Carlos Gomez thing to say, but like I just like
by the way, can we get him back for an alumni game?
Yeah, that's a little surprising.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I believe he's still on good terms with the team and stuff. So I think maybe it just didn't work for him, just schedule wise. But yeah, like these players take certain mindsets when you're hitting at certain spots, and maybe that's the thing with Frelick. We're like, because he's built like a leadoff hitter. Maybe that's what he needs to kind of get, fully locked in. I mean, like I said, you can be that guy hitting 7th, but yeah.
I felt like this might be just a generalization. I felt like Corey Hart was always the odd man out in that lineup. Like, was he a leadoff? He had speed for a big guy. Was he a 2? But then he was batting 5th, or it was all over the place.
Yeah, because you knew he wasn't hitting 3rd or 4th,
right?
Because that was Braun Fielder.
Yep.
But you're right. Like because he would hit leadoff and he could do it, and it was interesting because that was still at a time where you didn't see a whole lot of power hitters hitting leadoff.
Right.
And he was a size speed guy, but. And as much as I love Corey Hart, the thing with him was always like either he was on a heater or he was in a slump.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it made sense to hit him in that spot because he could steal bases when he got on.
Right.
But you didn't see that a lot where, guys that hit 25, 30 home runs were hitting leadoff then.
Pump the brakes, full throttle. This is kind of, we're looking at a future kind of bet sort of thing. But pump the brakes, full throttle. If Joey Ortiz continues this level of play, you'd be comfortable with him being next year's starter at third base.
I'll go full throttle with that. If this continues at a pretty good pace the rest of the year, then you have a pretty decent sample size of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're looking at I forget the day of demarcation. Is it July 4th? Is it
like his July,
like late June or something? Whatever the day is, like he has been one of the most productive hitters in the league according to OPS.
Right.
So. Yes, if he continues to do what he's been doing here, where I think some of his like advanced numbers are getting him almost to the point of being a league average hitter.
Yeah.
Which, considering where it was earlier on, is pretty impressive.
Right.
So yeah, no, I
mean, you would take, if we said at the beginning of the year Joey Ortiz batting 250, you'd take that, right?
Right, and then
that's
maybe with some pop with it, and especially knowing the defense that's there.
Right.
Like that's a productive player.
Right. Yeah, no, it's kind of hard to believe we're saying that right now. But, I mean, could you say he's been the MVP for the last month and a half for this team?
You can make a case.
Position player-wise?
You can make a case. I mean, I think Churio's in there as well. He's
quietly
he's just been been very good. Like, for this stretch, yeah. It's hard to ignore Jake Bauers.
Yeah, that too, yep.
I mean, he's putting together... Let's see. I've seen the numbers, and I kind of want to make sure I credit who's brought this up. But basically, outside of Christian Yelch's 2018 and 2019, his offense this year has been some of the best this team has seen here recently.
Oh,
like when you put that in that perspective, and I kind of want to get the numbers to back it up. But yeah, it's impressive. Yeah, and this was a couple days ago from Jack Stern.
Okay.
Which last 10 years, highest single season OPS plus for qualified Brewers hitters, meaning you got enough at bats. Christian Yelich 2019, Christian Yelich 2018, and not too far off that is Jake Bauers this year.
Wow. That's amazing.
It is.
The thing is, too, like, I think he's a free agent next year. But
he's a free agent after this year. And
the thing I was going to go is, like, could this be like the Brewers, like, okay, we're going to trade him to, like,
no, I think he's a free agent after this year.
Right, that's what I meant. Like, free agent. And I was like, kind of like the Caleb Durbin, Isaac Collins, or are they going to trade him and try to get a lot of return because he's such at a high level? Because
right.
But now I feel like they would probably try to bring him back at this point. But
yeah, but look, he's going to make some money. Yeah, he's going to make some money somewhere. So good on him. Like, that's the thing. Like, I will, if he ultimately departs as a free agent, gets paid somewhere, I will not be mad at the team.
Yeah.
I will not be mad at him.
Nope.
Like, to me, that's like the perfect walk year, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And
go cash in after years.
Exactly. Yeah.
Years
No, he's been grinding. Like and it's finally clicking for him. Like, and look, we've seen in baseball where guys have a run. Like a Jesus Aguilar.
Yep.
And you know what? If Jesus Aguilar was a free agent after 2018, he would have got paid too.
Yep.
So you know what? Yeah. And obviously that's a long way off. But when that time comes, if that's what happens, no ill will on my end. Just, hey, happy for you. You got paid. You made generational money. Good for you.
Yep. Pump the brakes, full throttle. We're going to stay with baseball theme and Brewers theme with this one, but pump the brakes, full throttle. Would you say Logan Henderson is the second best starter on this team?
Right now, yes. I would go full throttle with that. And Kyle Harrison kind of grinded through it. I mean, the velocity was down on his fastball, so that was a little concerning in that start Tuesday night.
Yep. But
the slurve was so good that it just kept guys off you saw some like middle takes from hitters. I think of one like early on from like Julio Rodriguez, where it's like, wow, he must have been really not looking for that. But it would be nice to kind of see his fastball velocity tick back up to where it was, closer to mid 90s as opposed to like 92, 93. But yeah, right now, Logan Henry, he has yet to allow more than 3 earned runs in a start. It's and Kyle Harrison's been very good, but it's tough for me to not say it's Logan Henderson right now.
Right. Yeah, it's like and we kind of talked a little bit about it earlier. He's pitched in big moments, and the spotlight doesn't seem to be too big for him.
Right.
Very similar to Mizorowski last year.
Right. Yeah, because going into the playoffs, that was really kind of it almost felt like the turning point for Miz a little bit.
Yep.
Because we've had this conversation before, but like going into the playoffs, like there were some people upset he was on the roster.
Right.
Because, it had been very inconsistent. But in the Cubs series and the Dodger series, Mizorowski was awesome there. And that was kind of, I think, okay. And I'm sure for him it was I can do this.
Right. I'm not going to phrase this probably the correct way, but I hope you understand where I'm trying to come with this next pump the brakes, full throttle. But, comparing this team to like last year in the postseason, because that's what we do. That's right. We always kind of do that. But pump the brakes, full throttle. Do you think this team, pitching-wise, is in a better situation, or maybe team-wise is in a better situation than they were last year? And I say this because we look at the starters and how they did it with Ashby, openers, and all that, where now it's like, okay, we got starters that can get guys out.
I know what you're saying, and I would say full throttle. Okay. I don't think they have to kind of reverse engineer it as much as maybe they did last year with the openers and stuff like that. You've got Mizorowski. If you have a full 7-game series, you got Mizorowski game 1 and game 5 ideally. You feel confident going Logan Henderson, game 2, game 6.
Yep.
Harrison and Dustin May, those are legit. I feel like you can go with those 4 and feel good about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a matter of, well, we kind of got this guy and we kind of make it work with this. Where last year was it was like Freddie Peralta. I think you felt pretty good about Quinn Priester, but I would feel better, especially those top 2, maybe even 3 of Harrison. Again, the velocity comes back a little bit. Compared to maybe the top 3 from last year, where it was kind of like, okay, you feel good about Freddie, and then Priester's been good, and then it's kind of like, you gotta have to kind of finagle it.
I feel like
they can be very straightforward with this.
Like the opener aspect. I go back to, and I totally got why they did it, and it worked out. But like that last game of the Cubs, and they started Trevor McGill.
Yeah,
and I felt like there was times like, okay, we can't allow runs early.
And that was it. Because they had the Cubs had come out so strong in that series, even games the Brewers won, that it's just like, man, can we just get a scoreless first inning and then McGill comes out? I mean, you even saw his energy and excitement. The team felt it too. Like,
Yep.
we just have to keep these guys off the board right away.
Right. And I feel like with these starters, they can do that now so
Yes.
that they're in better position for that. And it does put a lot more pressure on, okay, offense. It almost feels like if the offense just gives them a few runs with the starters, you hand that off to the bullpen with Uribe, McGill, and that you're feeling in a better spot. And I know the Brewers have had a bunch of comeback wins this year offensively, but I feel in that postseason
You don't
it's
want,
a little bit different.
you don't want to have to lean on that. You don't want to be the team that in the playoffs they're talking about. Well, I know they're down, 6-3 right now, but they lead the league in comeback wins. Like, it's nice that you did that, but you don't want to have to lean on the fact that we can just come back if we get behind.
Right, exactly. So I feel better about. So I'm glad you understood what I was trying to get at.
I know what you're. Yep.
With that, so because I feel better with those four guys too. Even with Dustin May having an off day
Right.
yesterday. I hope people aren't too wound up about that. I mean, every pitcher usually has.
Yeah, and that was.
right?
I mean, it's just funny that there was just such big swings in that Mariner series, where obviously the first game and then the second game immediately the Mariners come out, and then the game yesterday immediately the Brewers come out with 6 runs.
Right. And I know there was the one play that maybe it changes the course of the game. I don't know when that Dustin May start, but if Bowers isn't playing right field, that ball's probably caught and 2 more runs aren't scored or something like that. But
just is what it is.
it
Baseball.
is what it is.
It's baseball.
Exactly. So, but all right, I'm glad you I tried to phrase it the right way and everything, but it just wasn't kind of coming out there. So, pump the brakes, full throttle. I am going to bring it up. I am going to punch myself after I ask this question, because everybody else asks it. But Von Miller going to the Cowboys makes them a Super Bowl contending team.
I'm going to pump the brakes, but what I'm going to say is I kind of like the Cowboys a little bit this year.
Ooh.
Offensively, they've been good these last few years. Like, offense hasn't been the problem. Defensively, it can't be that bad again.
Yeah.
Like, it can't be that bad again. They've made some low-key good moves. Like, obviously, Von Miller's not the Von Miller of 10 years ago.
Right.
But he's still, he can still,
It did shock me that he had 9 sacks last year.
Yeah, like, he can still roll out of bed and get you almost 10 sacks.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's a good guy to have, like, in a edge rush group.
Mm-hmm.
And they've made some moves. Like, I think Dallas, like, if they can just kind of raise the floor on that defense to be just, like, average, like, that's a team that I think could win, 10, 11 games, maybe, depending on what it looks like with Philly, maybe make a run of that division and be a wild card team. Like, I think Dallas is in a pretty decent spot here. So, well, I don't think it's going to be Von Miller getting 17 sacks and dominating like we've seen. Like, I still think he can be a productive player for them.
He's got to be a rotational, which actually works for them because they have another rotational player in Rashawn Gary. Which I will say this again, when I was coming back from Green Bay, I was listening to a national show, and I could tell they have not watched Packers games because they were talking about this very topic, and they were singing the praises. Yeah, Rashawn Gary's a really, really good player, and has been for a really good player for a long time. And I'm like, no. You obviously have not watched. If he was that good of a player, Green Bay would not have traded him for
scraps.
For 4th-round pick, which a lot of us were excited that they actually got a 4th-round pick in return.
Right.
So, this person was also based out of Chicago, which is a little weird. But anyways.
Would Rashawn Gary be the best pass rusher in Chicago?
Honestly, probably not.
I mean, Sweat maybe. I think Sweat's probably better, but like, he'd play a lot. Like, and that I was always a little surprised that the Bears didn't do a little bit more on that defense in the offseason.
I know they tried with Crosby, but still,
you're right. But like, a little more in the they were so turnover dependent.
Yeah,
and that can fluctuate year to year.
Yep.
So I was surprised they didn't do a little bit more to try to beef up that pass rush.
Yeah. Stay with football. So the Athletic the other day came out with their projections for standings. AFC wise, they didn't have the Broncos in it. Pump the brakes, full throttle. Should the Chiefs still be favored to win the AFC West?
Oh. It's a good one because the Chiefs have they made some moves in the offseason here. Like, they weren't just like run it back. I'm going to say full throttle, but slightly. I'm slowly accelerating coming off a red light, like when I'm the first car in line.
Yeah.
So, but like yes, because that's one of those, like, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt. It sounds like Patrick Mahomes coming off the injury. It sounds like he's good to go.
Yep.
So like, that's not something that getting Kenneth Walker. Obviously, they understand they need to beef up the run game a little bit. Like, so I will accelerate. I will full throttle slightly. But also knowing like that Broncos team is good. Like, I don't want to give Sean Payton credit for anything ever, but that Broncos team is good.
They were Bo Nix away from going to the Super Bowl.
If Bo
Maybe
Nix
even
doesn't hurt
winning
his
it.
foot,
Yeah, they're in the
they're
Super Bowl.
in the Super Bowl, and who knows?
Yeah,
Because they would have a defense that could have slugged it out with Seattle.
this is where I don't know if they're just like factoring in. Okay, Denver over exceeded expectations last year, so they come down to earth a little bit this year. But at the same time, they also did bring in Jalen Waddle in the offseason.
Right.
So
Yeah,
they
upgraded.
They upgraded a lot of areas. I'm gonna pump the brakes on the Chiefs winning the division. I think they'll be better, but we got to remember too. They were bad last year, even with Patrick Mahomes playing. They were not good. Travis Kelce showed, I think, some of his age last year.
He was a little bit more of a possession receiver than maybe a dynamic receiver at the tight end position.
Yep. I think they'll be better than what they were last year, or more competent. I don't know if that's the right way to say it.
Yeah.
I'd still put Denver. The Chargers make me nervous now with Tyler Biotic hurt.
Yeah.
Because they just struggle.
They just
so much
the
with
offensive line just can never stay healthy.
Yeah. So that one I think takes a hit. Raiders aren't doing anything this year, so I still think it's between Kansas City and Denver, but I'd still give the advantage to Denver. Because that defense is good with Denver too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very good.
With Nick Bonito over there and all those
Patrick
guys.
Surtain.
Patrick Surtain. So yeah, I'd still give it to them. I did find the NFC projections pretty funny because it was like all NFC West or North teams.
Right. Well,
in the
I
top
laughed
9.
because like in the North weren't there like 2 games separating the 4 teams?
Yeah.
I think I saw it this morning. I think the Lions were at the top and it was like 10.6. I think the Vikings were last and it was like 8.7.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And that makes sense to me.
Yeah. It was really confusing if you read it because they have Rams won, which no surprise. Seattle, 49ers, they ranked them top 3. And then Detroit was 4th. 5th Eagles, I think
That's
it was.
Philly, yeah.
Yep, 5th was the Eagles. 6th, I think, was Chicago. Then 7th was Dallas. Then Green Bay was 8. However, Green Bay would have made the playoffs according to the projections. Chicago would not have, and neither would have Dallas. But Chicago and Green Bay were ahead of Dallas in the rankings because they had a 0.1% better chance of winning the Super Bowl. So it was really confusing to kind of follow that.
And then also the NFC South exists.
That's the other part. So that's the other part in that thing. So, but yeah, like the NFC North was the only division. All 4 teams were the top 9.
Yeah.
Minnesota was 9 or 8 or 9 or 8 or something
Yep.
like that. So, which I think Minnesota. I think they're going to be a team that I will be nervous to play. If Kevin O'Connell could get to Kyler Murray, it wasn't that long ago he was an MVP talk at the beginning of the year. I don't know if he can get back to that or if he will get back to that, but if he does, Minnesota is going to be a team to be paying attention to. You got to like it. I mean, when you look at Pro Football Focus rankings of offensive line and see Minnesota's a top 15 unit.
It's kind of crazy to say. I mean, the biggest thing is like they got 2 guys that are now 2 years removed from injury. Christian Darrisaw, who last year you could tell it was not right coming off that knee injury in 2024, and Will Fries, who was coming off a broken leg his last year in Indy. So the big thing there is going to be the center. Blake Brandel, who's kind of been a Swiss Army knife around the lineup, he's been the center, and he's had some snapping issues in camp. So that's kind of the big thing there. Like it's kind of one of those things you always hear about with offensive lines, like your own goes to weak link.
Yep.
Like if Blake Brandel, like if he's the weak link, but yet he can be all right snapping, I think they'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Donovan Jackson's second year, Brian O'Neill inked the extension, kind of just the quiet leader of that group. But that's the big thing is what's that look like?
Yep.
And I mean, the changes with the run game, with bringing new Keith Carter assigned to the offensive line coach, a more aggressive approach would be kind of the nice way to say it with him. I mean, he in his previous stops with the Titans and the Jets, definitely there were some guys that were kind of rubbed the wrong way. He says he's kind of learned from that and altering that approach with the with the Vikings. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like that just seems like for the Vikings, that's been a constant game of whack-a-mole of trying to figure out how to get the offensive line better. If you get better in one spot, well, suddenly something else pops up, and we'll see. But if they want to run the ball more this year, which that's the way it sounds, you need the offensive line to be in a good spot.
Yeah. All right, we got to take a break. That is your AJM Automotive Pump the Brakes for full throttle. We actually have to take 2 more breaks before the top of the hour, so we're running a little behind. But we'll be right back after these few words. All right, just because we went a little bit long, we do have to take one more shorter break before the top of the hour, which we're going to hit here in less than 7 minutes. So let's kind of refresh here, get you set up for the final hour on this Friday morning. We'll get back to some more Brewers talk as we take a look at this 3-game series with the Braves coming up starting this afternoon. Jacob Mizorowski versus Chris Sale. Logan Henderson is on the mound. Coming your way tomorrow. Shane Drone gets to start on Sunday. Packers fans, if you're going to be following tonight's game 2 of the preseason, who or what will you be watching for? Give us your scouting report. Give us some of the players that you're going to be paying attention to or what you're going to be paying attention to. You can hit us up on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line with a quick text at 715-830-1912, or you can hang out in the Section 105 chat room on our video stream. So different ways for you to be chiming in with that. Like I said, we will along, so we do got to take our final break for this hour, but we'll be back in a couple minutes to put the finishing touches on this third quarter and get you set for the final hour. We'll be right back after these quick words. All right, again, just a couple minutes left to the top of the hour here. So we're approaching the final hour on this Friday morning before we head off for the weekends. Should be, I mean, it's that time of year. We've got baseball, we've got high school football, we've got other high school sports going on. We got preseason games coming up your way here too. So, but we'll get back to some more baseball talk as we take a look at games, or I should say game 3, but this 3-game series with the Brewers and the Braves. Maybe a preview of a playoff series, a playoff matchup between the two ball clubs. I hear your mom's going back down this weekend for the. He just rolls his eyes.
She goes to more games than anybody I know.
Probably, I'm assuming she wants that Hank Aaron replica jersey, that powder blue.
I think that's kind of a happy byproduct. So.
She should go down to when they do the Cheerio Bowl one and grab some of those. So, but yeah, she texted the program a little bit earlier this week and said that. So, but definitely goes more than you. But you got stuff you got to take care of. You got work.
Yeah.
You work a lot.
Especially on the weekends.
Yeah. All right, shot clock's gonna cut us off here in 20 seconds. News updates, and then we'll be right back to get back to some more Brewers talk. But hey, send us who you watching for. Put your scouting caps on for the preseason games coming up. You Vikings tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yep. They got the Ravens.
So no Saturday games for Packers for preseason games. So I wish I was going down next Friday. I don't have tickets though. So there you have it. All right, we'll be back. Here we go. Final hour. Kick it off right now on this Friday morning of August 21st. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. Appreciate you making us part of your start. Whether you're listening on the radio dials, got a couple of those, 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Online, you can stream it up at sportstalk1051.com. Got your app, the Wisco Sports App. You've got your smart devices like your Alexa devices. And, of course, the video stream that is up and rolling on YouTube. All right, we got Mr. Berg here with us, too, for the final hour. Brewers afternoon game today, 3:10 first pitch, Miz versus Sale. Almost feel like, how do you approach this if you're the Brewers offense? Do you try to be aggressive early? Do you try, I mean, I can't imagine, they like to work the count, right? They try to be patient, but do you approach this offensively to be a little bit more aggressive? You know, if you get a scoring opportunity, do you have to play a little more small ball to move those runners across? Like, how would you approach going up against Sale?
That's a great question.
Hey, I've heard that before this week. Thank you.
Oh, you. Whatever you go into I think whatever your game plan is going into it, like, you know, do you want to be aggressive the first time through? Do you want to be patient the first time through? Like, I just think you have to be ready to kind of alter it if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, if you go into it saying we're going to be patient, but then, you know, Chris Sale's just pouring in strikes, well, then that second time through, you probably got to be a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah.
So I'm not really giving you a firm answer. I'm just saying that whatever you think you need to do, you got to be ready to change it, because if he's on, you can't afford to just be, you know, either over aggressive or overly patient.
How, you know, like, I feel if you get a runner on and there's nobody out, you almost, like, do you try to manufacture that bunt to move them in
early on, just to get something on the board, maybe just get a little momentum going?
I mean, we know they're aggressive around third. You know, Eric's has been really aggressive setting those guys. And, I mean, the example is game one with Bowers and Cal Raleigh, which dead in their sights.
After that first inning, just looking at Bowers, and, like, he looks like he just needs a 15-hour nap. He just looked wore. I mean, he was fine, but, like, he looked tired for not, you know, like, exhausted, I guess, not tired like sleepy, but like exhausted for
legging out a double to begin with to get there, and then, you know, second to home, and just But
yeah, like the second, like right away when he sent him, when he came around, like, oh no, he's done. he's out. I mean, really, he should have been, but, or
as the kids say, he's cooked.
He's toast.
Yeah, but so I mean, they'll probably be aggressive, I would imagine. Maybe not that aggressive.
Yeah, but that's also just their nature.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think it's also important. You can't stray too far away from who you are.
Yeah. Yep. So then we got Logan Henderson. It's still TBD for the Braves. For at least on Brewers.com, it is. They have it TBD for the Braves for the next two after that. But Logan Henderson, I think for me, all right, coming off that big time performance on Sunday, can he continue to do that? And I think that's what's beneficial for pitchers when they come off those big games. They get a few days.
You get time. Yeah, you get time. It's not like you have a big game, you have a day where if you're a hitter, you drive in 6 runs, and then suddenly, well, you're back out there the next day, and if you go 0 for 4, it's kind of almost like it didn't happen.
Right. Yep. So Logan Henderson and then Shane Drone, which, got a couple innings, maybe just kind of some work in.
Right.
At that point.
Usually in the middle between starts, guys are throwing like bullpen sessions or stuff. So they're actually throwing pitches anyway. So I think maybe their thought there was like, we kind of need it. So like, why don't we just kind of essentially throw your bullpen session in that game? And the way it was going, like, it worked out just because he had a little wiggle room too with it.
Mm-hmm. I want to get your thoughts because I think, kind of quietly here too. I talked about it in the first hour, but David Hamilton's been actually playing kind of well here as of late, numbers wise. And you look at his numbers for this season; they're above his career averages. I mean, I don't want to say has he exceeded expectations because that's like Jake Bauers has exceeded expectations, but Hamilton, would you say, for a role player, starter, whatever we want to call it, he's been pretty darn solid. I mean, defensively, you lose a little bit between Ortiz. He sets the bar so incredibly high, and even Cooper Pratt over there too. But seeing Ortiz, what he was doing at shortstop on Tuesday night's game was unbelievable. Like, okay, he still knows how to play shortstop. So, I mean, that's a high bar, and obviously with Terang over at second base too. But from an offensive standpoint, maybe has David Hamilton kind of been, a solid contributor throughout the majority part of this? How would you describe his performance this year?
I would say he's a big league player and he's a useful player. Like, there's certain things he does that help you win games. I mean, we know the bunting, the speed, like.
And this is the first year he's kind of really bunted, right? I mean, that was
Yeah.
something he had to kind of get used to.
Right. And, he's with the speed and stuff, like, there's just inevitably when you have speed, there's just so many doors that open up for you,
Yeah.
whether it's like, an infield single or forcing an error, or, you can turn what would be a single into a double. Like, there's just so many things that when you have speed, and I think the Brewers are a very good example, is because for the most part, top to bottom, they have speed.
Yeah.
Not every single player, but like I would say just cumulatively, they have more team speed than a lot of teams, and they're aggressive with it. So, I mean, he's a guy that, he's a major leaguer. Like, he's a major league utility player. Like, I'm still of the mind that he shouldn't be starting more than 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
But like, he's still a useful guy that will help you win games.
Yeah. Yeah, and 24 stolen bases so far this year. I mean, he's one of those guys. We hear that phrase, I think, Brewers make you play defense or put the pressure on the defense. And he's one of those guys, too, because even if it's like an infield hit, because that speed that.
You just never know. Like, if you have if say he gets a ground ball to shortstop and the shortstop has to move 2 or 3 steps one or the other, it's like, well, there's a non-zero chance he could beat this out.
Right.
So, like, even as a fan, you're just like, oh, I still got to. I can't just, okay, I can go grab a beer or something because he's out. Like,
yeah. And I think that's in the minds of those players, too. Like, they know they have to rush that or they have to be aggressive in that throw or getting after that ball.
Right.
And putting the pressure on them. So, but yeah, I was looking at his last 21 at-bats. He's about 280, I think it was, or somewhere around there. I'll have to double-check, 270, something like that. But been collecting some hits here and season numbers. Yeah, he's above his season high. Or
right, I think the OPS
numbers,
is around like 650 now, which it was lower 600s not that long ago.
Right.
So, I mean, league average is a little above 700, so he's still below average, or, a hitter, but, that's also probably just indicative on he's just never going to hit for power.
Right.
The slash lines as far as the average, the on-base percentage, those are going to look pretty okay.
Yeah.
And he's an interesting guy when he plays, when he hits at the bottom of the lineup, because I'm a big believer in the pre-leadoff. A guy hits someone ninth that is going to have a decent on-base percentage and also is going to maybe get some speed. And then that guys like Turang and Churio love having a guy like that on base when you're up, because if you go in the gap, there's a good chance he's scoring from first. Like, if you're a run producer, you love having guys that are fast in front of you.
Yep. I want to play this if I could get it up here quickly. But so this is just pure for my entertainment, for me, and I won't tease it anymore. I'll play it. But this was Pat Murphy the other day. I think it was on MLB. But he was asked, his top 5 underrated baseball players of all time, or something to that effect. So let me see if I can bring it up here quick. Yeah, here we go. All right. Let's see if I got it.
Dustin Pedroia, I mean, he's a winner deluxe. He makes things happen. He makes the locker room better. He's a champion. Then I got to throw in Craig Counsell, of course. Again, winner, champion. I'd love to mention Jimmy Rollins, undersized, but got the most out of everybody. 4th. I know he's in the Hall of Fame, but CC Sabathia as a hitter. People don't know it, but I saw it. The guy could rake. And last, on my own team, I hope he doesn't see this, Sal Frelick. Special, has the it factor. He's Pedroia of the modern day.
All right, so that means Sal Frelick is not going anywhere for the Brewers, right? He's the Pedroia of the modern era. I love that top. That is such a Pat Murphy top 5, isn't it?
When you bring up Pedroia, like, I think might be my favorite Pat Murphy story was him introducing Sal Frelick to Pedroia.
Yeah.
And like the first time meeting him, like knowing he likes Pedroia, and then just deadpan be like, "Oh, Pedroia sucks." And then like for like a day and a half, like Frelick's like, "Was he mad at me?" And then like obviously ultimately getting him a chance to meet Frelick, to meet Pedroia, who was like his idol as a kid. Like,
yeah,
it's just so funny that right away he's busting his chops like that, just like, "Oh yeah, that guy sucks."
Yeah.
When he knew him.
Right. But that, I mean, Pedroia, Craig Counsell, and then he goes Jimmy Rollins, which was a solid shortstop.
Right, but and he was good, but like on those teams he may not. I mean, you're thinking Ryan Howard or whoever. So like no,
Even Chase Utley.
Chase Utley probably. Yeah, he maybe got overshadowed a little bit. So maybe underrated the fact that like. I think there's kind of different levels to underrated. Like underrated can be like, oh, this guy was really, really good, but maybe not enough people know that this guy was really, really good versus like, oh no, this guy was solid.
Yep. And then the CC because of his hitting, which was
hey, his son hit his first minor league home run.
Yeah, he did. So that's awesome. And then so I saw the Sal Frelick. I'm like, oh, that means he does not want him to leave the Brewers. Yes. Salvatore is going to be here for a while. Yes, Salvatore. So, that was like that's a typical. That's if you were to try to guess a Pat Murphy top 5 and you saw those names, maybe the CC one's kind of surprising a little bit for some people, but yeah, everybody else.
As a hitter, I think it makes more sense.
Yes. Yep. So, but when we look at the rest of where Major League Baseball stands, we got like 34 games left to go, at least for the Brewers. It might be give or take here for some others. You're a little over a month. After this week, it'll be about a month left of the regular season. And, man, there is some crazy, I don't know if you want to call them good races. American League is just kind of reminding me of old school Eastern Conference in the early 2000s where under 500 teams are going to make the playoffs.
The Bucks are an 8 seed at like 39 and 43.
Yes, because that
Keith Van Horn has willed them to the postseason.
I mean, the third wild card team is the Twins right now, and they're 2 games under 500. Texas is also 2 games under 500. Toronto is a half game behind them. They're 3 games under 500. Cleveland, 1 game back, 4 games under 500. Detroit's 1.5 back, 5 games under 500. Baltimore's 2 games back, 6 games under 500.
You got some teams in the National League that are going to be hoping for a transfer over to the AL.
This is like a 7-10 team winning the division and getting a home playoff game in the NFL. And then, the National League. Not as many teams as close, but at least the Diamondbacks, who are 1 game out, they're 6 games above 500. Cardinals are only 2.5 back. They're 7-3 in their last 10 here. They're 3 games above 500. Then Miami's 4 games back. They're at 500 right now. So, I mean, these are some races to watch. Again, maybe not the greatest teams, but they become desperate teams at this point in time in the regular season, which makes them dangerous teams for some of these ball clubs that are going up against them.
For sure.
That's why this Mariners one was dangerous.
Well, I think that's why maybe the Braves found out a little bit with the Twins.
Yeah.
I mean, if the Twins don't sweep that series, maybe they're feeling a little bit different. But, yeah, being able to sweep one of the best teams in the National League, it's baseball. It just shows anything can happen.
Looking at run differential has been a big, topic. And I do like looking at run differentials because I think it tells you about defense, but also a little, obviously offense too.
Right.
But this Brewers team, to see them that they're number 1, plus 159. 159.
And they were also, I mean, they were around there as well before the 22-0 game. Like that didn't just suddenly make that number right. They were there before.
No American League team is over 100. The highest one is Boston at 95. Yankees are at 94. Dodgers 145. Braves 112. Cubs right at 100. So the top 4 teams in Major League Baseball are all National League teams in run differential, and the Brewers are the tops. Does that speak? But this is such a weird team because they average like a little over 5 runs a game or 5 runs a game, which is top 5 in Major League Baseball. But it's not the home run ball, and that's the thing.
Right.
And that's where I feel maybe this is just me being too optimistic with this thing. When they get to the postseason, there's that home run ball, but with the pitching, again, going back to what we were talking about, I feel better about their pitching than what they were last year. So maybe that puts them in a better position to win games with this style of offense.
Maybe. I mean, I'm always gonna just kind of glare at that NLCS though, where the pitching wasn't the problem there.
No,
I mean, they scored 4 runs in 4 games. Like, it wouldn't be a bad thing, and maybe that's where playing a guy like a Gary Sanchez a little bit more in the postseason, where I mean, the last few years the backup catchers never played.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that necessarily means benching Contreras in those games. I just mean, like, especially against a lefty, like, if you're facing a lefty, you need to find a way to get Gary Sanchez in the lineup.
Does that mean Yelich not playing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a quick yeah.
No, I think, and that reflects what we've seen from the lineups from Pat Murphy right here recently, where Yelich has been, pretty much exclusively just DHing against right-handed pitching.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Gary, he's somebody that you have to get in there, whether you want to DH him or you want to catch, either or. But I probably wouldn't have him playing first base in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, they won a game against the Dodgers with him at first, Vaughn at third, and Bowers in right field.
The goal, yeah, the shades of the old goal line offense of Travis Shaw playing second.
I mean, I know you said like last week or before about a softball lineup, slow pitch softball. That was a slow pitch softball.
You bet,
right there.
But that is, that's something I think, especially just knowing obviously that between Skubal and Snell, if you face the Dodgers and even look at the Cubs, they've got some lefties, with Imanaga and some other guys there too, where Peterson, if he's in the rotation, like if you're facing left-handed pitching in the playoffs, Gary Sanchez needs to be in the lineup. I think it's just that simple. Yeah. Whether it's DH or catching, he needs to be out there because historically he hits lefties well, and he's hitting lefties well this year, and it's a power threat.
Yeah.
It's a guy that with one swing can hit you a 3-run home run. Yeah. And that could swing the game.
Yep. All right, let's take a quick break, but we'll be back with plenty more coming up after these few words. John with a quick text saying the 6 Packer players that he will be watching tonight: tight end Josh Wiley, offensive lineman Jagger Burton, defensive lineman Warren Britson, linebacker Tyron Hopper, defensive back Kamal Hayden Haddon, defensive lineman Colin Oliver. If you want to make your picks, you can send those on over to us on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912, or you can also hang out in the Section 105 chat room. So preseason games week 2, excuse me, got underway last night with a couple of games. We got a couple more tonight, obviously, with the Packers and the Broncos. In case you're wondering, Raiders won 22-20. Kirk Cousins did not play in the game last night. Mendoza 8 of 15. So I wonder if that talk about him starting's kind of died down after a pick 6 interception. But yeah, we'll see. But it's still gonna be Kirk Cousins, right?
It is. I mean, because he played the first game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he really probably needs to play anymore.
No. And you don't bring Kirk Cousins in without the idea of him starting. Like,
yeah,
this isn't, and I used this reference the other day. When Seahawks signed Matt Flynn, they also drafted Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was a 3rd-round pick, I believe.
He was.
Matt Flynn had signed the contract. Yeah, they thought he was going to be a starter, but Russell Wilson outplayed him. This, to me, is a little bit different than where Mendoza is a 1st-round pick. And I think we all know that he might just need a little bit more seasoning.
Yep.
I think Russell Wilson just blew everybody out of the water.
Right, he was just that good.
Better.
He was just that good. Yeah, this is if let's put it this way: if you have 2 guys racing to the end zone, they're not both starting at the 50-yard line.
Right.
Kirk Cousins is probably starting at the 30, and Mendoza's probably starting at the other 30.
Yep.
And maybe Mendoza gained a little ground, maybe. But it just makes a lot of sense to start with the veteran, give the kid a little time to kind of watch somebody that knows what he's doing and how it operates, and then the team kind of can see behind the scenes, as long as there's not an injury, okay, they can probably get a better sense of, when he's ready versus, hey, we kind of need you out there.
Yep. So give us a little bit with your Minnesota team, kind of a sense of with week 2, because I feel with preseason game number 2, maybe this is more in terms of Green Bay, but I don't know how other teams kind of approach it. But I feel like game 2 is maybe the most important one in terms of, one's kind of the first one, get everything out of there. But game 2, after this, I want to see roles starting to be defined, right? Like offense, okay, this is the starters we're going to roll with if you got an offensive line battle. Whereas, okay, 3, the 3rd preseason game, we have a good idea who the starters are, a good idea who the main backups are, but maybe just a few jobs or a couple jobs are opened.
Kevin O'Connell does not like playing starters after game 1. So I think he's even said this week that, really they probably took a lot more out of the joint practices with Baltimore this week than the game. It sounded like from what he said, not a lot of starters, the guy, because I think the only starter that didn't play last Saturday was Justin Jefferson, and he doesn't need to play. No. He's never played a preseason game in his career.
I did not know that.
And
it's worked out fine.
Well, because 2020 there was none.
Yeah.
And then after that,
his rookie year.
And then after that, it was not necessary.
Yep.
So, but no, I would say on the Minnesota end, this game especially, I think once you get to game 3, I don't know if you're going to necessarily learn a ton, but if there's, certain spots, I would say, maybe like the 4th wide receiver between Miles Price and Tyfel. Miles Price has kind of been one of the stars of camp. He got the touchdown from Carson Wentz. He's been just kind of an explosive kind of gadget guy. Last year he was doing a lot of kick and punt returning. He's a shorter guy, so is he more of a receiver? Defensively, how's the secondary kind of pecking order working out beyond the first couple guys? Byron Murphy, and am I blanking on the other corner's name? That was gonna bug me a little bit, but beyond the guys are gonna be starters. How does the rest of that pecking order work? So, So,
looking up here.
Isaiah Rogers. I don't
Oh,
know
yeah.
why. I don't know. Those. I mean, those are two starters for corners, but the third one, is it James Pierre? Is it Charles Demings, who's been kind of a rookie darling for a guy from a small school that's been making a lot of plays? Like, how does the safety room work out? Like, that's kind of the pecking order more so there than honestly at this point I would like to see JJ McCarthy play at the very least the entire first half, because Carson Wentz played more than he had to last week because Max Brosmer got injured.
Yeah.
But Carson Wentz doesn't need to be playing in the second, third preseason game. He knows the offense, and he just doesn't need to be taking hits at this point.
Yeah.
He takes enough hits when he plays anyway. He doesn't need to be taking them in in training camp. So assuming Brosmer is good to go, like, I would just like to see a lot of McCarthy and a lot of Brosmer, because those are the two guys quarterback wise that just need it. Like to see a lot of Damon Claiborne, the rookie running back, just because it's going to be Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones at the top.
Yep.
Claiborne's a young guy, but he has a lot of juice, a lot of speed to him. Like, just guys like that. And I guess the other thing I would say is the two rookie defensive tackles, Caleb Banks, Dominique Orange. A little more down than up, I would say, in their first game, but their first game out. This is the time where guys like that, who aren't 100% earmarked to be starters. If the season started right now, they probably wouldn't be. But, like, give him more time just to see kind of now you can kind of see how guys react game 1 to game 2.
Right.
They're a little more used to it. So
right.
That's kind of what I'm looking for out of them tomorrow, is guys like that.
It is. You mentioned the joint practice, the comment, and Matt LaFleur was actually asked too about joint practice, and he kind of said, yeah, he'd like to have more than just the one with the Cardinals, which it is kind of interesting when you think about joint practice, that these teams get more out of that. They still play each other in a preseason game. I don't know if it's because they do more schematically, but there's still fans watching. So it is kind of an interesting.
It is, and it's. I think part of it too maybe is because it's just a little bit more controlled environment.
Probably.
Where I know with the Vikings and the Ravens, you can do like, okay, we're doing red zone now, so it's Baltimore offense against Vikings defense, and like there's just a little more.
You're not supposed to hit the quarterback,
right? And that's big. Quickest way to start a fight in a training camp, practice, hit the quarterback.
Yep. So yeah, that I think you hit it on the head. It's more control. They come up with the game. The two coaches work on the game plans and what they want to work on. I do wonder, are we going to get to a point where that's going to be more of a thing and let preseason games are? I don't think they'll fully get rid of the preseason, but I can see more teams starting to do these.
Yeah. The last few preseason games may end up being more of like back end of the 53-man roster and practice squad.
Yep. Yeah, and I think preseason is probably more valuable for the front office and GMs than maybe what it is for coaches.
Yes, I think that's fair. Mm-hmm. Not just on your team, but also scouting elsewhere.
Correct. Yeah. It was funny because Goody at the presser I was at too said that the pro scouts were so starved that they watched that Hall of Fame game like 5 times. I'm like, you guys are a bunch of nerds.
Well, hey, if you're gonna be in any pro sport, but like especially NFL, like you got it's cliches like, oh, he eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Well,
you do. Like, I love sports, I love football, but I don't even know if I could do that.
Yeah,
you really have to be completely dedicated to that.
Yeah.
Not get burnt out, which I think I probably would.
I probably would too.
But so no, I think after it's because it's gonna be interesting next week. I don't think I'd be surprised if like Love or any of the starters play after their joint practice. I mean, there should be no reason to.
Yeah,
so.
Little game action in a couple games, and then the joint practice kind of the cap it for them. That makes sense.
Yep. Nope. I would agree with that. So I'd still like to get to Lambeau next Friday, but it's just not going to work out. So. This might be the one year. I say this every year, but this might be the one year. No, I'm going to a game. I know I'm going to a game. I just got to figure out which one. So, all right, we got to take a quick break as we are less than a half an hour to the top of the hour, to the end of the program. We'll be back after these few words. Let me get your thoughts on this, Brandon, since we got picks coming up in about 10, 15 minutes or so, kind of going off the rails here. But with this whole Lakers ownership selling, and now, I mean, because he's also owner of the Dodgers.
Owns a lot of things, but yeah, that's
is it possible? We don't know, but I'm just throwing it out there. Possible that the Dodgers could be for sale, and how much would this? How difficult would it be to like sell the Dodgers, knowing they have so much deferred money?
right. That's part of it.
That's got to be. And somebody had told me too that Ohtani does have a opt-out clause if ownership changes.
Yes, I think I had seen it reported that he would not exercise it.
Okay,
But I mean, look, part of that might depend on who it gets sold to. I mean,
if they go for
I mean,
sale,
it's put this way: if that were to happen, I mean, he probably thinks like I'm not looking to do that, but like, what if it's sold to someone that he absolutely just for whatever reason it just doesn't work with?
yeah,
Like I don't know, but yeah, it's interesting.
it is, and it's one of those like. I'm not going to pretend like I know how it would all work out.
Right.
I don't know the financial. I don't know the legal stuff with everything that. So, but I would just look at it from this, just plain generic. Like, okay, if say I had billions upon billions upon billions of dollars, yeah, I'll be interested by the Dodgers, but then I have to pay all that deferred money later on. Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah,
here.
and you're paying, because you're. I mean, what did the Lakers go for? Like 12 billion.
billion.
Yeah, billion. Like, if the Dodgers go for more than that, because it just seems like things are always going up.
Yeah.
Like, but that deferred money in there is significant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's maybe the difference between doing it or not doing it, but it factors into the calculus.
I think, when it gets to these negotiations with the CBA and that, I think deferred money will always be there. It's just they got to rein it in maybe on the amount or the extent.
I think so, yeah.
Because let's face it, Brewers have deferred
They've done it. Yeah, Brian Braun, Christian Yelich has deferred money coming. Like they've done it.
We always talk about the Bobby Bonilla one.
But there's so many others that have.
Right.
Yeah, they're not alone.
So it's one of those where it's I think it's just the fact that how much a team that has a lot of money like the Dodgers are like Ohtani's going to get more when his contract's done. That's the biggest thing.
Yes, the money he makes right now is off of endorsements and other stuff.
Right. He's going to get so much. I mean, he's going to be retired probably and making $20-30 million a year. That's the issue that I think teams have, where it's like Brewers aren't going to be paying Chris Yelich $20 million each year in deferred money.
Right. Right. The meat of his contract is getting paid for while he's a player.
Right.
It's just that they're able to defer, if it's like $1 million a year, whatever it is, for 10, 15 years, whatever it is.
Yep. So I think that'll always be a part of it, but they got to rein that thing in.
And I understand that it's because it's the Lakers that got sold, but like it's funny that so many times we hear this where, and I guess you could even see with the Seahawks because they got sold too, right?
Yep.
It's like, we hear a lot about in these different sports with owners like, well, they're struggling. It's not actually not as, they're not actually making as much money as you think. And then they sell the team and then, oh no, it's always going up. Yeah. It's not like somebody is selling a team and it's way less than what other teams are getting. Like the price just keeps going up.
Right.
Like my thing when it comes to like major sports owners is always, there's a reason that not a lot of these people sell their teams very often.
Right.
Because they're making money.
Right.
And usually if you're an owner, you probably made your money doing something else.
Yep.
And one of the things you probably learned is if you're making money doing something, you're going to keep doing that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think we are gone past the days too of a single person family owning teams now because the prices are so high.
Yes.
And maybe that's why you're going to see Cowboys never sell maybe in our lifetime. But I didn't think the Buss family would sell the Lakers.
Right. Yeah.
I know one of the Busses doesn't. Jeannie doesn't want to. So, I mean, that's going to be kind of interesting to kind of follow that. But you kind of I asked Seabaum this the other day. Say you're the owner. Say, okay, Brandon, you own the Brewers. You're a huge Brewers fan. Would you ever sell it?
Look, I'm not.
It's easy. I think it's easy to say
it's
no.
Easy to say no. I wouldn't. But like but if someone comes up to you and says for the Milwaukee Brewers, I'll give you $5 billion.
Right.
Look, I love the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers are my favorite sports team, and yes, but it's like
I could buy season tickets every year.
Come on, you could like I'm gonna to quote the legendary pro wrestler Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. Everybody's got price.
That's the thing. Like if I own the Packers, how cool would that be? But if somebody offered me $15-16 billion, whatever.
Literally, Hudson's great grandkids would be set.
Yeah. You throw in some season tickets, and
Right.
I'll be good. You know?
Like you could buy your own season.
I could.
You could just like get a crane that you could be sitting on the sidelines up in the air.
Yeah.
Was it Tony Saragusa that used to have the?
Well, I know Booger McFarland had that Boogermobile.
I thought Saragusa had something like that too.
Maybe he did. It wouldn't surprise me if Tony Saragusa did. But I know Booger McFarland had that weird. He was sitting on this elevated chair going up and down the sidelines. Which, yeah, give me one of those. Heated though for the cold. Enclosed for the cold weather.
Maybe I am thinking of Booger.
Yeah.
Because
it was just so weird.
Yeah.
It was so weird.
Yeah.
But all right, tell you what. Let's take our final break, and we've got some picks to be made. That includes preseason football with lines coming at you. So we'll take our final break and wrap up shop after these few words. All right, here we go. Time to wrap it up with some picks here this morning. Let's begin with the NFL. The NFL preseason schedule continues week 2. We've got the Jets at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Jets are favored by 1.5.
Oh, my gosh. Aaron Rodgers' revenge game that he will not play in. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. Drew Aller just lights it up again.
Hey, it's a battle between that third quarterback spot. Mason Rudolph has it locked up at number 2, according to Mike McCarthy. So Will Howard, Drew Aller, a couple Big Ten quarterbacks.
A couple QBs. I think they have their own stands out there. So we'll see. But I'm gonna say big game out of Will or Drew Aller, and that's the most you're getting out of any of these preseason games for me. I'll take the Steelers.
Yep, I'm gonna go Steelers too. How about the Panthers at Jacksonville? The Panthers also favored by 1.5. 2 road
The battle
teams.
of the 95 joiners.
Yep.
I'm gonna go with Jaguars.
I'll go with the Jaguars too. And then Green Bay, Denver. Denver somehow favored by 6.
You didn't save it for last. That shows how much you care about preseason too.
Well, that's the last one for tonight.
Yeah.
So that's.
I'm gonna go I'll just go with Green Bay.
Who's the backup at Denver?
Is it still Stidham?
I think you're right.
AFC Championship game starter Jared
Hey,
Stidham.
we don't have good. Nobody's talking about this game enough because this is where Green Bay season collapsed last year. Mike got hurt. Zach Tom got hurt.
Watson got hurt, didn't he?
It's just bad memories. We need to exercise these demons.
Bad things happen to Mile High.
Yep. We need to exercise the demons. Green Bay wins tonight. Washington, Detroit's favored by 1.5.
Washington.
Yeah, put some respect on the Commanders' names. Come on. Washington wins this one.
I'm just desperately trying to remember who the backup quarterback is for all these teams.
Who? Well, I think Mariota's hurt, though. So.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Yeah.
But I'm just taking Washington.
Okay. Buffalo at Cleveland. Cleveland's favored by 3.
Cleveland. Give me Cleveland.
Shadeur starting this one. Shadeur is starting. Can he win the job if he plays well in that game? I'm going Buffalo wins, though.
At least it's not in Buffalo, and everyone should be able to see.
Yeah. Atlanta at Indianapolis. The Colts favored by 3.5.
Atlanta.
Jack Strand.
Yep. Scored his first touchdown last week. Touchdown quarterback sneak.
Yep.
Some of the family was there. That's really cool.
Tua gave him the ball. You see that clip?
That was very cool, yeah. So hopefully a lot more Jack tomorrow playing as well. So
yeah, I'll go Atlanta, too. Baltimore at your Vikings.
I'm going to go Baltimore. Vikings don't actually win very many preseason games. So I'm going to take Baltimore.
I'll go Baltimore, too. Saints versus the Rams. Oh, my gosh. The Saints are favored by 2.5.
Rams, all Ty Simpson.
Yep. I'm going to go with the Rams, too. Aaron Donald should hurry up and get a preseason game in if he's coming out of retirement.
Yeah, Aaron Donald's not play. Although, I want to see Aaron Donald play in the 3rd preseason game. That would be the closest thing we're going to get these days to pros versus Joes coming back.
That would be awesome. Pros versus Joes.
It would look like a parent playing in the backyard with their kids and like showing no mercy.
Yep. Even being retired after these years.
Oh, he's still wreck shop.
Yeah. Giants at the Dolphins. Giants favored by 3.
Dolphins.
Of course. Chicago at Cincinnati. Chicago's favored by 1.5.
I don't care.
Cincinnati put up like 40-some points.
Cincinnati.
Joe Burrow is tired of saying next year. So, 2 parts.
Oh.
2 parts. One, he could never play for the Vikings then. Second part, that means he's taking it serious. I don't even know if he's playing. I'm going Bengals. Eagles, Patriots.
Ooh, A.J. Brown revenge game. I'm going to go
Super
Eagles.
Bowl in Minnesota revenge game.
I'm going to go Eagles.
I'm going to go Patriots.
Also the one from like...
Oh, yeah, Donovan McNabb.
The Terrell Owens.
Broken
comeback,
ankle one, yeah. Chiefs versus the Buccaneers. Buccaneers a whopping 5.5-point favorites. That means the Chiefs
that's because I'm picking them then.
I'm picking Chiefs. Why not? Dallas at Arizona. Good old-fashioned NFC East rivalry game from back in the day.
Arizona.
The Emmitt Smith game. I'm going Dallas. Seattle, we got a Sunday night game. Seattle at Tennessee.
Oh, I'm going to go with
4.5.
Seattle.
Tennessee's 4.5. I'm going Tennessee with Robert Saleh, of course, man. All right, we got about 5 minutes left. Games that actually matter now. Baseball. St. Louis versus Philly. We're picking
Philly.
series.
Philly.
Toronto and the Yankees.
Yankees.
Giants versus Boston.
Boston.
Washington, Miami.
Oh, Washington.
A little Miami. Tampa versus Baltimore. Baltimore's still in this too.
They're hanging out, but I'm going to go Tampa.
Mets, White Sox.
White Sox.
Athletics, Astros.
Astros.
Tigers, Royals.
I'm going to go Royals.
I'm going to go Tigers. Let's go Angels, Rangers. Guardians, Rockies.
Guardians.
Reds, Diamondbacks.
D-backs.
Good series here for, I guess, I should say good series in terms of teams competing for a playoff spot. Twins, Padres.
I'm going to go Padres.
Cubs, Mariners.
I'm going to go Cubs.
Pirates, Dodgers.
Dodgers.
And then finally, Braves, Brewers.
I'm going to go Braves.
This has worked before with you doing this. I don't know if that's why you are doing this, but I won't jinx it. No, Miz, Henderson. I know it's Sale.
Pitching. I mean, the pitching does line up fairly well.
Yeah, so I'm going to go Brewers.
Okay.
I'm going to go with the Brew Crew.
2 or 3, or are they going to sweep?
2 or 3. Can't be too cocky in this thing.
They're going to win 4 games somehow.
So if the Brewers win 2 out of 3, that means the season series is tight then.
Yeah,
correct?
I don't know what the tiebreaker is after that.
Yeah.
So is it run different? I honestly don't know.
Yeah. Common opponents, NFL, sort of.
Weight on the moon
tiebreaker
in kilograms? I don't know.
I do like it, though, when we get to that point in the NFL season and you're trying to figure out tiebreakers. ESPN does list it, why it's up there on the standings.
Yes.
I do appreciate that. So.
Whoa!
What was that?
What was that? I heard something go beep beep.
Battery might be dying on the speaker here.
Oh, okay.
That might be it.
It's rotating through various colors, so I think it's trying to get your attention. That it is.
I do think it's
passing on to the.
I haven't charged that probably in a long time, so it probably is battery.
There you go.
So, all right. How much time do we have here? Just a couple minutes left. Again, we've got some high school football action tonight. You are going to be at Carson Park tonight.
I am. I always enjoy my trips to Carson Park for any sport, but especially for football. And McDonald taking on Eau Claire Regis.
Yep.
First time they have played since 2010.
I can't believe it's been 16 years.
I can't believe that was my first year here, and I feel really old now.
Just think about it. If you were born.
You could be if you were born the night that game happened, you could be on one of those teams right now.
Yeah. It also means 16 years. Oh gosh, that'd be Packers' last Super Bowl 45. Oof. It just feels like yesterday, but it wasn't. It's got to be battery.
Now your speaker is really getting your attention.
It's got to be the battery. That's okay. It's just a monitor speaker, so we know what commercials are playing and stuff. So.
Well, you got no more commercials because we're done in a little bit. So.
Well, that's true, but I need to know when the shot clock actually cuts me off because the computer's a little bit behind here. So it's just a little bit of a lag. So.
Okay, well you're pushing to the finish line then.
I am. So, but we also have Altoona Fall Creek going on. So
yeah, we got a lot of good ones.
A lot of good ones going on there.
A lot of good ones. Then some more Thursday games next week as well. So Thursday, Friday, and
when does the Thursday? Is there always a Thursday game?
There's usually some, but once you get into the season. Like I know McDonald has some just because of they're playing home the same week as Chai DeRay, so you can't have it the same day.
Yeah.
But then there's also a fair amount of 8-player teams that are doing it, and that's actually more for officiating.
Okay.
So,
that makes sense.
but there will be fewer of them once we get to week 3 and beyond.
Okay. So just kind of like an open the season sort of thing.
Yeah. Some teams, like they'll do it more early on. So.
All right. Yep. All right. Next week we've got college football starting too. So. The Fighting Bill Belichick's versus the Horned Frogs of TCU.
Yeah, NDSU making their debut.
NDSU as well. So we'll have college games.
We're only a few weeks out then from the Badgers.
Week 0 begins next week. Week 0. So, all right. Shot clock's going to cut me off in 35 seconds if the speaker doesn't annoy me anymore here. So, but have a fantastic rest of your weekend. And again, best of luck to all the teams that are kicking off their seasons tonight for high school football and all that. So, but have a good weekend. Watch the Packers tonight. Give us your scouting report on Monday morning. Hopefully the Brewers were back on Monday talking about a series win against the Braves. Till then, see you all Monday morning, 6 a.m. Sharp.